Tell me where to be, Daddy Fauci.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is June 24th, 2020. This is episode 212, and this week, Society 5.0. And I am your buddy Basil.
And this is Gonz. Welcome back to another episode. Hashtag Bible Prophecy, YouTube. That's my way of sticking it to YouTube.
Yeah, they didn't
cryptic,
like you,
but not cryptic.
They didn't like you using hashtags about the Bible, huh?
Apparently, they don't even show it on top of the titles. Usually, if you publish a video on YouTube, you can put up to 3 hashtags in the description, and it'll pop up right above the title of the video. But I noticed that it wasn't there yesterday, so I did a couple checks and tests. And it's certainly true that YouTube does not allow hashtag Bible prophecy to pop up above the title of videos anymore.
Yeah, okay, there you go. It's hate speech.
Apparently. And it's funny because you click on the hashtag Bible prophecy, the link in YouTube, and it takes you to the first video, which almost has 2 million views, is a Vice video about Trump and how Bible prophecy elected Trump and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's like
the Trump bulldozer prophecy. Watch out.
They're scared. They're scared.
Coming at you, kind of slow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anything. Let's see. What day is it? It's Wednesday, second show of the day here, and today is Happy Twitch Blackout Day, everybody.
Yeah, you said second show of the day. You seem to have a problem with the days and weeks. It's like all one big thing.
Time is a flat circle, Gonz.
I know, you've been saying that for years. I think it's getting to your head.
It's just a good excuse.
I know, but it's just
for messing up every single time. But okay, second show of the week. Here we are. Thanks everybody for tuning in to Twitch Blackout Day, and we are here and we're blacked out. And it doesn't seem like many people really took that suggestion very serious, but we're here to support everybody in whatever way you need to be supported. That's why we're here. So let's see. I'm just scrolling through the Twitch numbers here. It looks like the unnoticeable decline in people Twitch broadcasting, but there you go. That's your Twitch blackout for the day. Anything exciting happened since Monday, Gonz?
No, not really. No. Oh, you know what? I will mention this. Wife's coworker's mother tested positive for the Ronas.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, their whole family is like quarantined in different places. Like the fiance is stuck in a hotel. Grandpa or dad, I guess, is stuck in a hotel. Mom's in the hospital. They're being isolated and a little stressed out over there.
Any chance that the contact tracers are going to come after you?
Maybe. I know that there's some protocol based on that from the workplace around here, at least businesses in my local area. And yeah, there is a point at which all people in the family have to test, but also my wife's coworker friend is unable to get a test because she doesn't have any symptoms. But she's stressing out over it. So, I'm trying to
unable, like they won't test her because she doesn't have symptoms?
Yeah, they're saying that you don't have any symptoms, we can't test you. And I'm like, and the other thing, and I'm very suspicious. You know me, I'm suspicious of, us on this show, we're suspicious of the whole thing.
Right.
But the first test came back negative. And then they called back and said, actually, sorry, mistake, she's positive. So it's just the whole thing is very weird,
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah.
Okay. Well,
keeping that in mind.
We'll keep taking your temperature there, and maybe if we could live stream a COVID test, that would be groundbreaking material.
Yeah. you can really
Well,
get in trouble.
I was a little triggered yesterday, Gons.
I know you wanted to start with a Basil triggered story, which we don't even have a jingle for, but Basil was triggered.
I wanted to talk about this story, but there's no place to fit it in the show, so I'm just going to go off the top here. This is denver.cbslocal.com.
It's just a storm. It's a storm raging in Basil's
You hear that?
corner.
That's the sound of Basil being triggered. All right, this article's titled "Keep Your Cat Out of Your Dating Profile." CSU researchers warned men. That's sexist. Men who like cats are less likely to get a date. That's the takeaway from a study by Colorado State University, which found that women are less likely to swipe right or say yes to men if they're posing with a cat in the picture. Scientists showed hundreds of women photos of two men, both men pictured with and without a furry companion. Their responses showed that men's luck got noticeably worse when women saw the picture with a cat. Quote, men holding cats were viewed as less masculine, more neurotic, agreeable, and open, and less dateable, the authors wrote. When shown the cat-free picture of one of the subjects, 38% of women said they were likely or very likely to casually date him, while 37% said they'd consider a serious relationship. But a picture of the same man holding a cat gave respondents pause for thought, and those numbers dropped to 33% for each category. Ding, ding, ding. 33%. What are they trying to tell us? The magic number. Meanwhile, the proportion of women saying they'd never consider getting involved with him rose from 9% to 14%. So you got a 5% spread on both of those. And you know what? I was a little triggered, mainly because of the 33. You know, we got some elite signaling going on here.
Totally.
Which, you know, I think means that taking pictures with cats is the way to go. And, you know, I thought about it, and I think I'll consider it more of a filtration device, having a cat in your picture. So that extra 5% of women, you know, they didn't make it past the first round. Their loss. I'm the one with the cuddly kitties. There you go. I don't know. I don't do dating apps or anything for obvious reasons, but there you go. For all you cat-loving men out there.
Yeah, you're looking out for your fellow cat owner males. The picture of the guy with the backpack with the clear shield thing with the cat riding his bike or something.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I'm not really into that. I'm not too stoked about the... I own a cat and a backpack that holds him.
I don't own one of those backpacks, but I have been very tempted in the past to try it out. All right. Well, there you go. That's what triggered me earlier today. Let's jump into the show. Gons, what do you say?
Let's get on with it. A Flippy update.
Yahoo.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
All right, Flippy update. For those who don't know, Flippy is the colloquial name for the disembodied robot arm that in total are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use Flippy as a proxy to hold a conversation about how automation, robotics, and AI are sneaking their way into our lives. We're just a bunch of frogs in a artificially intelligent boiling pot of water. This article, like I said, from Digital Trends and is titled RoboCut is a robot sculptor that would put Edward Scissorhands to shame. Okay, weird reference, but if you say so. Remember the iconic scene in Edward Scissorhands where the endearing titular scissor-fingered misfit shows off his sculpting skills by chopping a great hunk of ice into a breathtaking carving of an angel? Researchers at ETH Zurich's Computational Robotics Lab and the University of Haifa have created a robot that does something similar, only with blocks of styrofoam instead of ice, a flexible heated rod instead of scissor hands, and a 2020 dual-arm industrial robot instead of an early 90s Johnny Depp. But apart from that, it's totally the same thing. Meet RoboCut. Quote, with RoboCut, we enable robots to use deformable tools to efficiently fabricate complex objects with intricate curved shapes. Simon Duenzer, a PhD student who worked on the project, told Digital Trends, quote, we apply this to a technique called hot wire cutting, a method where a heated wire is used to effortlessly cut through expanded polystyrene foam. While traditionally a straight wire would be used for this, in our case, the dual arm robot uses a flexible rod. This allows it to continuously adapt the shape of the tool to match the curvature of the target surface such that it can be produced more efficiently and with higher quality. As can be seen from the video up top, RoboCut is capable of transforming a cube of styrofoam into all manner of shapes, from a cute bunny rabbit to a shark. It's an impressive party trick, but the really impressive part is the motion planning algorithms required to compute the right movements for the robot arm to manipulate its cutting implement so that the correct object gets carved accurately. There you go. There's more to the article, but more or less, watch out, sculptors. It's not just car manufacturing and burger flippers whose jobs are in danger now. It's sculptors, the artists. They're coming for you. Instead of, honing your craft for years on end, now all you got to do is, figure out how to use some CAD software, and a robot can do the work.
I'm looking at the video here, and I'm showing it on screen for anybody who's watching the live stream or the video afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But they're cheating a little bit, because you have these two robot arms. It's got the wire between the two, and it's certainly some intricate movements, but there's somebody that comes in and changes the angle of the styrofoam before each slice. So, okay, yeah, it's like moving in that direction, but
you're not a fan of the artistic method of RoboCut.
Well, if they're gonna make a robot doing this, they should give the robot a mechanism to rotate the the stand that the styrofoam box sits on. It's still impressive, I suppose.
Okay. But all right, so there you go, RoboCut. Gons is not impressed.
No, do better.
Be better.
Be better.
All right, you got any updates before we jump into the big stuff?
We have a series of updates.
Okay.
We interrupt this broadcast to give you a brief update. By the end of this timely interruption, you will be thoroughly updated.
All right, the first update we have here is from timesfreepress.com.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee newspaper fires ad manager for end times ad. Or end of times ad. And this was a story that we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
Of the guy who
the Seventh-day Adventists who put out an advertisement. What was it, in a newspaper or something?
I think it was a newspaper or magazine that said
about how ISIS is going to nuke
Tennessee,
in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah. So the Tennessean announced the newspaper and its parent company Gannett had fired the manager after conducting an internal investigation into what led to its publishing. And it goes on here, and here's what I found interesting. It says that, quote, well, there's a quote here from the company. We apologize for publishing this ad, and we specifically apologize to the Muslim community in Nashville and more broadly. Kathy Jack Romero, president of local sales for Gannett, told the newspaper, quote, this should have never happened. And then later it says here, revenue from the ad sale will be refunded to the group, and Gannett will donate the $14,000 value from the ad sale to the American Muslim Advisory Council, the newspaper reported.
Interesting.
Quote, we're grateful that they've opted not to benefit from the proceeds of the ad. Sabina Mohyuddin, executive director of the American Muslim Advisory Council, told the newspaper, quote, we can use that for something good in the community. But that's not it. Mohyuddin also said the newspaper's executives have contacted her to apologize. Aside from the donation to the Nashville-based advocacy group, the company will also give $50,000 in advertising credit to the council and will coordinate with them on diversity training for the newspaper staff. So there you go. $50,000 in ad credit.
Wow.
Going to the American Muslim Advisory Council. So a lot of pampering happening to the Islamic group that was I mean, I don't even think it's the Islamic group targeted. It's just because they used ISIS as the culprits. Now we have to pander to this Islamic
What if they
advisory council.
donated ad revenue to ISIS? That would be
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Problematic.
That would be the other option if they really want to. It's just interesting how they triangulate here and get this other group to this Muslim group.
If that's what makes it right, that's what they got to do. I will say I can't imagine this happening for any other group that would be. Well, actually, that's not true. I'm sure there's lots of groups that would get treatment like this. So there you go. There's one of them. Nice little update there.
Nice update. We got a few more updates here. Just a quick one. This one is a quick Space Pope Reptilian update.
Space Pope Reptilian.
And this is from Fox6now.com. Pope Francis compares priests who defied pandemic safety measures to adolescents. That's pretty much it. That's the update. He's basically calling. Okay, Pope Francis compares priests who defied pandemic safety measures to adolescents.
Oh, they call them. Okay.
Yeah, so the Pope noted that most priests were obedient and creative in remaining close to their congregations in the difficult months of the pandemic, even when they couldn't be physically near them. He also criticized the complaints of some priests who spoke out against lockdown measures, calling it adolescent resistance. So
rebels got something to prove.
Yeah, I don't know though, because Jesus talks about having childlike faith. So boom, Pope Francis.
It was a compliment. Okay, let's do another little update about some food.
I'm hungry. Yeah.
Okay, this was interesting. This actually came out in May, but we missed it, but I just wanted to mention it because, we want to keep an eye on the food business and the FDA. There's been a lot of news coming out the past few years when it comes to GMOs and food labeling and things like that. And this is from the SeattleTimes.com, originally from the Washington Post. And the title of the article is FDA rolls back food rules for 5th time during pandemic. And I'm actually just going to read a little bit of this, Gons. Makes it easier to understand. The article reads, the Food and Drug Administration has temporarily loosened labeling and information rules for food manufacturers for the 5th time during the novel coronavirus pandemic. The changes are intended to ease manufacturers' supply chain snags, but advocacy groups say that they are concerned that the changes will become permanent and that they will present problems for consumers concerned about tracking the provenance of their food. A new guideline allows manufacturers to substitute hard-to-source ingredients in their products without changing the label, and it allows vending machine operators latitude to omit calorie information for foods sold. Advocacy groups say the guideline announced Friday makes it more difficult for people with food allergies to be confident that their food won't make them sick. It walks back some of the advances vending machines have made in the past year in offering more healthful choices. Quote, we have no objection to temporary flexibilities in this moment, but we view with suspicion the notion that you'd want to continue those after the emergency, says Laura McCleary, policy director of the Center for Science and the Public Interest. Quote, they say they will take comments and consider an extension beyond the public health emergency. Why? Why do you need to do that? Why don't you just stop doing this? The FDA said changes to the guidance were temporarily. The FDA said the changes to guidance were temporary and intended to address the public health emergency. Quote, the food industry has informed us that there are supply disruptions or shortages for some ingredients. As a result, manufacturers say may need to make formulation changes such as omissions or substitutions of minor ingredients. FDA spokesperson Peter Castle said in an email, quote, to address the situation and to continue to support the food supply chain during this emergency, the FDA is issuing guidance to industry to provide temporary flexibility for manufacturers to make minor formulation changes in certain circumstances without making conforming label changes. So basically, Gons, if you're a food manufacturer and your supply chain has been disrupted, you're allowed to lie about what's in your food. Why even have a label if it's legal for them to lie about what's in the food? This is disturbing, to say the least.
Seems pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just legal deception. When you read a label on a food package, there should be some amount of trust that what you're reading is true. But now it's in the books, it's in the law that food manufacturers can straight up tell non-truths on their labeling in order to not spend the money to correct their labeling during times where they may be using other ingredients. So, I don't know. This is super sketchy and was it was really quiet because there's obviously a lot of other stuff going on at the time. But keep that in mind if you're opening up a package of Pringles or Doritos nacho blasted flavor triangles. You never know what's going to be inside.
Now that right there is a definition of insanity.
You know what else? You know what most food, especially processed food, labels should just have this on it.
It will kill.
That's basically what you can assume for anything that comes in some plastic packaging.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Not to say that it's going to stop me from eating those flavor blasted triangle squares.
All I'm saying is maybe they're already, making it kind of sugarcoating some of the some of the labeling already with, the ingredients are in there, but the effects and everything. Sometimes it talks about cancer, like, oh, this is, you can get cancer from this.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess if they can lie that way, why not lie more ways?
That's right. Okay, Gons, you ready to do a little segment on the COVIDs?
Yes. Let's start with this one.
COVID. Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
That's right. This is from... you want to do this one?
It's up to you. You can do it.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Axios.com. Article is titled, Fauci says Trump has never told coronavirus task force to slow down testing. Okay, so this is interesting. Again, with the back and forth with Daddy Fauci, hashtag Daddy Fauci. It came out a couple days ago that, it was so ridiculous how Trump was asking the corona task force to slow down testing. He mentioned... he joked about that during his speech at the much disputed attended rally there. Where was it? In Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Tulsa, yep.
He kind of joked. Well, let's get into the article. They'll talk about it. Hashtag Daddy Fauci. Anthony Fauci and 3 other members of the White House Coronavirus Task Force testified to Congress Tuesday that President Trump has never told them to slow down coronavirus testing, and that the U.S., quote, will in fact be doing more testing as infections continue to surge in a number of states. Already some logical inconsistencies there, being that, one of the reasons why we're seeing the numbers spike is because we are testing more people. Anyways, why it matters. The White House officials have insisted that President Trump's claim at a rally on Saturday that he asked to slow down testing because it resulted in higher confirmed case count was, quote, tongue-in-cheek. Trump said on Tuesday, however, that the comments were not a joke, telling reporters, I don't kid. Well, probably. It's okay to joke, Trump. You can admit to having a sense of humor. Trump described coronavirus testing as a double-edged sword, claiming it accounts for the country's 2.3 million reported cases, the largest caseload in the world. Last week, Trump called testing overrated and said it makes us look bad. What they're saying, this is from the NIAID director, Anthony Fauci. I and my
Daddy
colleagues...
Fauci.
Daddy Fauci. And I and my colleagues, to my knowledge, I know that none of us have ever been told to slow down on testing, that it's just a fact. In fact, we'll be doing more testing, as you have heard from the Admiral. We'll specifically identify people to isolate and contact trace, but more surveillance. If you want to get your arms around and understand exactly what is going on in the community spread, we're going to be doing more testing, not less.
More surveillance.
Yes,
he
more
just admits
surveillance.
straight. This is the part that I actually watched from the whole. It was like a 6-hour thing, and I just happened to be watching this moment when he said, "More surveillance. We're gonna have more surveillance."
Good time to tune in.
Yeah. Thank you, Daddy
as
Fauci.
Dr. Fauci said, all of us continue to be committed to increasing timely access to testing. We have made marked improvement. We still have a ways to go. One of the key things, as Tony mentioned, getting a little familiar there, Director Robert Redfield. One of the things Tony mentioned, my buddy Tony, is expanding surveillance because of the non-symptomatic nature of the infection. We are looking at ways it could substantially impact testing. We are doing 500,000 or 600,000 tests a day. We are continuing to try and enhance testing. Between the lines. This is interesting. Axios has a little between the lines segment. Fauci told the Wall Street Journal this week that higher percentages of positive tests results in many states, quote, cannot be explained by increased testing, despite what Trump has claimed. I don't know the logic behind that, but, if an authority says it, I believe it.
Good, because more surveillance coming your way.
Yeah.
More tests.
I know, more surveillance. Yeah. That's what we want to hear. It shows the disconnection between these people and the general population, where they think, being told that they're going to be surveilled more is a good thing, when in fact it's pretty much anybody on the left or the right, just the average person. That's one thing that like the far left and the far right have in common is they're not down with the surveillance. It's a problem, Daddy Fauci. It's not a good thing.
According to him, it's fantastic. We need more. So make it trend. Hashtag Daddy Fauci. I started to use it. Nobody's really using it. No one's picking up on it, but
we got to hashtag all our videos, although that might draw too much attention.
Yeah. All right. We got more COVID stuff here. And this one, we talked about the problem with the toilets flushing before, but it's expanded now.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that.
The longest toilet flush in the world.
This is Vice.com, obviously the most fantastic outlet ever known to man. Where will we pee when we're out in our half reopened states?
No.
Written by Hannah Smothers. After 2 vodka lemonades drunk out of a big paper cup on a street corner in Williamsburg in late May, my friend... we'll call Megan.
This person knows how to party.
Really had to pee. The bar where we got the vodka lemonades was serving drinks from the makeshift takeout window, like lots of other places started doing during the pandemic. I knew there were 2 perfectly good toilets. There were 2 perfectly good toilets inside, just 20 feet away, but the bar's big front doors were locked. Megan was really starting to potty dance around, so I hopped on my bike to see if the public restrooms at the closest park, Domino, a privately operated park that isn't run by the city, were open. The doors there were locked too, despite the park itself being full of people lounging around in their little social distancing circles. None of the bars or restaurants nearby were open aside from their takeout windows if businesses are going to be open enough that we can use their services, but so closed we can't use the bathrooms. I have to ask, where are we all going to pee?
Oh, no.
Typically, pseudo-public bathrooms, like in the country's countless Starbucks locations, help field the public's need to pee, really. Public urination citations go down. But for states in stages of reopening, it's not clear whether any businesses has to let anyone use their bathrooms, and even public bathrooms that are open are overwhelmed. That means as we face processing the pent-up excitement of people who haven't been able to go out and do things for several months, I know, we may be facing a deluge of pee that has nowhere to go except, well, ... It goes into some stuff here. The point being that they're trying to make it sound like the one thing that's going to be a problem is where we're going to go pee. Aside from the fact that they already had stuff go down with the toilet problem from the last couple episodes. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but there's a part at the end I want to highlight. And it says here, until we get some sort of official policy response on where precisely we're supposed to go to the bathroom while patronizing all these halfway open businesses, maybe the only thing we can do is agree that peeing outside is acceptable now. Your move, politicians who are ordering states to reopen. So there you go. I think this is just another plea by Vice here to just make our cities and towns disgusting
I like how it
and
has
allow
to be
it to
policy issue.
Well, Vice. It's always going to be a policy issue, asking our overlords to come up with policy to help us. We don't know where to pee.
Politicians to help us go to the bathroom.
It's like, my goodness.
If you need to rely on the politicians to help you go to the bathroom, we've reached a whole new level here.
And we've gone through the whole thing with the gender neutral bathrooms and all that stuff. But now, now it's even beyond that. It's like, hey, where are you going to go when you got to go? It's also encouraging people not to really go out, Stay inside, slaves.
Granny Canary in the Twitch chat just recommends diapers,
Hey, you know what? These people...
It's going to see a weird resurgence in adult diapers. That's the next thing. I'm surprised. Actually, that would be interesting. I would want to know, of course, we had the issue with the toilet paper, and we'll see how... the grocery stores in my area still have empty toilet paper aisles. I cannot believe that we're 4 months into this and that is still an issue. But adult diapers, I'll have to check and see what the status is on that.
Yeah, I just thought I'd update everybody on that because obviously Vice is picking it up, and this author Hannah Smothers has no idea what to do with her when nature
Tell
calls.
me where to be, Daddy Fauci. Okay, yeah. I've got another COVID story here for you. This one's this one actually was making waves.
Yep, it was.
COVID. The race wars.
Race wars?
Race war. I've warned you and warned you and warned you.
Warned you and warned you and warned you, folks. WashingtonExaminer.com. The article is titled, Oregon County Imposes Face Mask Requirement Targeting Only White People. Minorities Exempt Over Racism Fears. Interesting. A county in Oregon has issued an order requiring face masks to be worn in public, but has exempted non-white people over fears of racism. Health officials in Lincoln County, Oregon, which is inhabited by roughly 50,000 people, issued the order for any situation in which individuals might come within 6 feet of another person, but heightened concern about racial profiling and harassment mean that non-white people aren't required to abide by the rule, according to the New York Post. The decision to exempt non-white people from wearing masks comes as some have attempted to make the case that minorities are in danger when required to wear masks. Quote, for many black people, deciding whether or not to wear... Oh, I lost my spot. Sorry. For many black people, deciding whether or not to wear a bandana in public to protect themselves and others from contracting coronavirus is a lose-lose situation that can result in life-threatening consequences either way. American Civil Liberties Union Racial Justice Program Director Renika Moore said to CNN in April. An article published by Stat News in early June displayed the headline, quote, which death do they choose? Many black men fear wearing a mask more than the coronavirus. Quote, when the CDC issued guidelines in early March asking people to wear masks to prevent the spread of coronavirus, the question for many black men was not where to get a mask or which kind, the article said. It was, how do I cover my face and not get shot? California, Oregon's neighbor to the south, recently County imposed a similar rule, with Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom mandating that face masks be worn in public places, which has resulted in pushback from many residents, and some officials have said they won't enforce the rules. Of course, we've been seeing a lot of stories about that. Sheriff's departments all over the country saying they're not going to enforce the mask rule. But how does any policymaker add this into their policy and not expect to, any response to the ridiculousness?
How do you, well, we're trying to fight racism by being more racist is basically.
Well, of course, that's the only way to do it. That's the game
that doesn't
plan.
make any sense. And the one thing I noticed too, speaking of Gavin Newsom in California, out here in the Orange counties in Southern California, if you go on the freeway, they have these big, I guess like signs that, the big light signs. And it did say like practice social distancing, we're going to fight. We got to beat coronavirus, or I think it said COVID-19. And now it just says when you're outside, cover your face.
Cover your face. We don't want to see it.
Wow. Okay. All right. Big giant sign on the freeway. Thanks for telling me that if anytime we're out in public, we have to wear a mask and cover our face.
The upside downness of this whole situation is just crazy. I mean, it's crazy. If wearing a mask truly is for the safety of any individual, wouldn't it then be racist to tell people of color that they don't have to or shouldn't wear a mask either way? I mean, what are you asking people to do? I guess this means you, Gons, as our resident person of color, don't need to wear a mask. I'm jealous.
Yeah, I'll just go around. If anybody looks at me weird, I'll be like, what are you, racist?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, of course, you understand the sentiment. Of course, in the before times, if you saw really anybody, but specifically in some cases, people of color walking down the street wearing a mask, that would turn some heads. But I don't know. I feel like I don't even need to walk through this. It's so self-evident how wrong this is.
It's pretty ridiculous. I don't know.
Yeah, not even that I'm saying that I want people of color necessarily to have to wear a mask. I'm just saying if we're trying to push for equality for all human beings, making a law that says one group of people has to wear a mask and the other group doesn't, I mean, how is that not inherently on its face a racist policy?
I don't think they're, you make the
Booyah.
point.
Come on, Gons, really argue debatable. With me. I know you love masks.
Yeah, I like masks and aprons that go around my waist that look like the Google sign. Yeah, that's what I'm about.
Oh, your Masonic apron.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did you think I was talking about?
I don't know. I thought you were. I don't know. It's 2020, Gons. I don't know what you like to wear around the house.
Okay. People, we're just giving the trolls more fuel for the fire here. There's a couple trolls on the YouTube chat. Won't address them, but let's go on here because there's more to cover here with the whole COVID thing. Hopefully, this thing. I mean, did it say in the article how they're going to enforce this?
No, and it's just as of now, it's just in one county in Oregon. Although I did see some stories popping up just before the show that other places have similar laws. But it's just the madness. The madness will spread. It always does.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's just madness.
Yeah. What's next?
COVID.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
This is from Bloomberg. It's an opinion piece. And actually, hold on, let me switch up the browser here because I don't have a Bloomberg account subscription. So I'm going to change browsers here.
Hacker Gons.
I know.
You got to get your one free article.
I know. I thought it would refresh by the time we start the show, but it did not. The new weapon in the COVID-19 war. And it's interesting because this is written as an opinion piece. Mm-hmm. But here is what it says. No one who passed the young woman on the street that night. Oh, where do I start? A series of dispatches from America in the age of COVID-19. No one who passed the young woman on the street that night gave her so much as a second glance. It was a Saturday evening in the South Beach neighborhood of San Francisco, and she was heading away from the stadium where the San Francisco Giants were meant to be opening their season and toward the arena where the Golden State Warriors were meant to be ending theirs. The young woman carried a small white styrofoam cooler that looked as if it had made one too many fishing trips. She wore a mask and running shoes. She made this trip almost every night, and she might as well have been invisible. And she thought that was funny because of what she usually had inside her styrofoam cooler. Racks of tubes filled with COVID-19.
What?
The buildings in the area housed some of the world's leading labs studying deadly diseases. Ebola, Zika, MERS, SARS, bubonic plague. They kept it all in refrigerators, but sometimes they needed to move it around. Quote, "Hang out here long enough," the young woman said as she walked, "and you realize you don't have any idea of what people are carrying." Her name was Hannah Retallick. She was a microbiologist and student of Joe DeRisi, the virus hunter who, in early March, had turned the Chan Zuckerberg Biohub into what might be the country's most interesting coronavirus testing lab. Retallick was just 29, but had established herself as a leading pupil in what I've come to think of as the Joe DeRisi School of really cool virus hunters. It's just funny how everything's past tense, even though it's like 2 months ago.
Right.
One brief example out of many. A few years ago, a great white shark washed up on a Santa Cruz beach, not dead, but madly thrashing about. DeRisi saw the news report, wondered if maybe the shark had a virus, and called up the California Marine authorities. A guy there told him that actually hundreds of sharks were washing up on San Francisco Bay Area beaches. People had been calling to complain that some company must have dumped toxins into the bay. DeRisi asked his students if any of them wanted to go shark virus hunting. Hannah Retallick was the first to raise her hand. A few days later, Retallick drove herself to a beach just south of San Francisco International Airport and waded out in the waters. Quote, "You need to collect some samples."
That's a dangerous thing to do when you know sharks are coming close to the shore.
Anything for science, because science is truth, Basil. Don't you know? Didn't you hear Daddy Fauci tell us?
I hope she was wearing a mask.
"You need to collect some samples, and the fresher the better," she said. She hoped to find a dying shark, but instead found a dead one with its eyes intact and no stink, but both signs that it had just died. She hauled it into the parking lot and popped open its skull. Its brain looked as if it had been exploded by a grenade.
Whoa.
And these scientists are just gnarly. Hannah Retallick then set out to do for the shark what Joe DeRisi had done for other species, including her own: isolate and understand its killer. DeRisi had helped to invent a technology that made this easy to do. It allowed Retallick to subtract from her shark specimen all the genetic material that naturally belonged to the shark. What remained were the genes that shouldn't be inside a shark. As it turned out, these belonged not to a virus, but to a single-cell parasite that plagued fish farms. Miamiensis avidus. The parasite was not usually found in the bay's very salty waters, but that season had been unusually rainy. Retallick guessed that the rain reduced the salinity of the bay to the point where it accumulated or accommodated the parasite. She went back and asked the California authorities for their records of unexplained shark die-offs in the San Francisco Bay. There had been several, all in unusually rainy years. The sharks hadn't been killed by some toxin, they'd been killed, in effect, by the weather. Retallick, like her mentor DeRisi, was now training her virus detective skills on COVID-19. The white styrofoam cooler that she carried through the streets of San Francisco was packed with plastic tubes filled with both human and coronavirus genes. She and 3 of Joe DeRisi's graduate students, all women, had processed the tests themselves inside a lab across the street from the Oracle Park. Quote, "The bomb squad," DeRisi called them. When they found the virus, they diffused it so that it could no longer infect people. But they preserved the genome and carted them into this little styrofoam cooler back to the Biohub's smoking cold -81-degree freezer, where they were about to do the most thrilling detective work in this entire pandemic.
Really?
At the moment, Hannah Ritalik was supposed to be finished with her PhD in biomedical sciences. She was sliding trays from her cooler into freezer shelves jammed with virus samples. I asked her why she had put her studies on hold to go hunting the coronavirus. Quote, "Who else would do it?" she said. We now have the first case study. It shows how Hannah Ritalik and her colleagues inside the Chan Zuckerberg Biohub might dig us out of the mess we have gotten ourselves into. 7 weeks ago, researchers at the University of California, San Francisco offered to test for COVID-19 everyone who either lived or worked in a fantastically diverse 4-square block area of San Francisco's Mission District, census tract number 229.01. It wasn't a simple thing to do. The tract was heavily Latino and wary of authority. An enterprising community organizer named John Jacobo, who had grown up in the neighborhood, made sure that each of its 1,400 front doors got banged on at least 5 times, and that all 4,087 official adult residents, including the small homeless population, were told about the coronavirus test in their native tongue. I don't know, 5 times each door. That's at a certain point, you got to, it's like
too many times.
It's like the JHW, or JW, not JHW, JW. Quote, "You talk about a PR battle," said Jacobo, laughing. Quote, "We had people telling us that the virus is a hoax. We had other people tell us it's an ICE operation." The international, what was it? I can't remember the name of the acronym for ICE.
The immigration enforcement. I forget what the C is. Immigration I have no idea.
Anyway, ICE, because obviously Latino, they're thinking that they're trying to get him deported.
Right.
Or we're the guinea pigs. They're going to test us. Then they're going to test the vaccine on us too. I don't know. These guys seem smart. These people in that neighborhood. Just banging on the doors had been an eye-opener. The actual number of people living here is way different from the census count, said Jacobo. One 3-bedroom apartment that was meant to be housing 5 people contained 30 who were using the bedrooms around the clock in shifts. In the end, roughly 3,000 people showed up to be tested over 4 days in late April, and the BioHub processed their tests. A bit more than 6% of the Latinos were infected by COVID-19, most with high loads of the virus, though many had no symptoms. There were patterns in the test results. For example, the wealthier the person, the less likely he was to be infected. And of the 981 white people tested, 0 were positive.
What?
And so the big takeaway seems to be that everyone in the past few weeks has figured out, or had, what was it? And so the big takeaway seemed to be what everyone in the past few weeks had figured out. The virus is now disproportionately attacking poor people of color, and lots of infectious people are walking around without a clue about their condition. But neither of those, it turns out, is the biggest takeaway. The biggest takeaway is this chart, and it has this chart here. Kind of complicated if you take a look at it. It's kind of hard to describe just in audio format. So if you're curious to see what this is, it gets into the crux here. What you see here is a portrait of the genetic relationships of all the COVID-19 found in a 4-square block area of San Francisco in late April. A few weeks after the results were gathered, I sat in a room at the BioHub staring at a version of this image, trying to figure out what it meant. DeRisi and 8 of his proteges, 8 Hannah Ritaliks, were beside me, turning their minds to this new problem. The first thing they explained to me was that the viruses mutate in ways big and small, but they make errors in themselves at different rates. A perfectly stable virus, that is, a virus that does not mutate, would leave no meaningful fingerprints. Everyone infected by it would have the exact same virus. The virus genome would be able to say nothing about where they got it, or how, or from whom. On the other hand, if the virus was a lot less stable, if it mutated as some do, many times inside a single person, its fingerprints would be smudged beyond recognition. From the point of view of the virus hunter, or of a virus hunter, COVID-19 is, as DeRisi puts it, quote, in the sweet spot. It mutates once every 2 or so transmissions. Its fingerprints are rife with meaning and easy to track. You can tell where it's been and follow its journey along the way, judging by how it's changed. The starting point of the diagram is not in the San Francisco neighborhood, but in Wuhan, where the virus originated in early December. 0 means 0 mutations. Drop in on any cluster of figures in the chart, and you begin to see stuff that's nearly impossible for virus hunters to see with the naked eye. Look at the household with the middle annotation. 3 people in the same household were infected with the same virus. No big news there. One of them likely gave it to the others. The news is how it entered the household, likely from the Mission resident on the same line. He or she had the exact same virus, but contracted it earlier, which is why he or she has antibodies marked with yellow. Without the genetic connection, you might never have any idea that these people had any sort of relationship at all. Even if a test had identified the person who infected the household, and that person was grilled by teams of contact tracers, the connection with the household might never have been made. The person might not even be aware of the connection, or might know it and want to hide it. This is starting to get very surveillance-y.
Yeah.
But when we know these people are surely connected, then the question becomes how? Do they ride the same bus? Are they having an affair? Is it a little kid who happened to have played in a park near the child of a household? How are these things linked? Asked DeRisi as he moved the cursor back and forth. Are they linked by the buildings they are in? By the church they go to? All these things can now be deduced. Before my eyes, the novel coronavirus was being turned into a work of nonfiction. Quote, "It's amazing that all these stories fall into place," said DeRisi as he scrolls through the chart, moving basically from one week to the next. Quote, "This same resident who likely infected the household may have also infected 2 workers who don't even live in the Mission. The household of workers one step further from those residents. It's possible there is 1 degree of separation between them, that he gave it to someone who gave it to them, but no more than that. How did a person infect those people?" You have to stare at this image a bit to see its power, but look hard enough and you'll see that from the virus's point of view, it's a terrifying new weapon to slow the pandemic, or I'll add, a great way to figure out exactly what everybody is doing even more. Mm-hmm. By revealing the genetic relationship between the viruses, the diagram exposes the social relationships between people it infects. Quote, "It's basically a spotlight that tells you where to dig," said DeRisi. "In all of history, we've never had a really clear picture of the spread of the virus. That just changed." I know it's long, we're almost done here. Back in 2003, when the original SARS virus started killing people in Hong Kong at a frightening pace, DeRisi sequenced its genome, but the process was too slow and expensive to be of practical use. Quote, "It's 50,000-fold cheaper now than it was for SARS," he told me. What cost me $10,000 to do in 2001 now costs a penny. And so we might now test for the virus in a way that gives us a picture that you can get from more conventional random sampling. Explore how the virus works in one neighborhood and you can apply what you learn to others. Our state government should be doing this, said DeRisi. It should be asking, what are our social relationships and which ones lead to the transmission of disease? That's how you would do in a rational society, or the technocracy.
Yeah.
It's growing clearer that the coronavirus does not spread in an orderly way. Each infected person might infect 2 others on average, but most people who get it infect no one. I thought it was interesting that this article would admit that most people who get it or get infected infect no one. On the diagram where DeRisi's cursor lingers, he highlights a person with a particular talent for spreading the disease. The genetic information shows you the urgency of getting that person into quarantine, but it does more than that. It has the potential to lead you more generally to the social activity that's spreading the disease. It works the other way too. The approach DeRisi has developed can be used not just to shut things down, but to open them up. Last week in Northern California, a pair of workers at a fish packing plant came down with symptoms of COVID-19. The BioHub processed their tests and found both workers had the virus. In an age not all distant from ours, the fish packing plant, which believed it had taken the measures to keep its workers safe, would have been forced to close, as it would have had to assume that one of the workers had infected the other on the job. But then Joe DeRisi's super cool virus hunters sequenced the 2 viruses and showed they were genetically far apart. The 2 workers had contracted the virus independently and outside of work. The fish packing plant was able to stay open, and its workers were able to stay on their jobs. So I know it's kind of a longer article, but it goes into, first off,
it's a real roller coaster.
It
real
is.
roller coaster of an article. Whatever happened to the sharks? We started out talking about sharks having coronavirus, and then we move on. I'm very interested to see if we need to start masking these sharks or not.
Well, the sharks had to do with the brains exploding or whatever it was from the alleged what is it, a fungus or something that was growing in their brains. But yeah,
I know. But how does it even belong in this thing?
I think it's just following the story of the lady here.
Yeah.
But the thing that's interesting, that's the Chan Zuckerberg Biohub. So this is kind of a pro type of article pushing the idea that the Chan Zuckerberg Biohub is doing great work, that everybody in society should adopt these methods in a rational society and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it. But also, I mean, it's kind of good that they're able to, I guess, trace more, but at the same time, they're looking, this is really that whole, surveillance society thing, like way more than before. Before it was kind of like, hey, where you're going, what you're doing, but this is more like, okay, what exactly are the interactions? Not just where you're going, but what you're doing when you're going to those places, who you're, what kind of relationships do you have with these people? It gets really, really invasive.
Yeah.
And,
well, in the again, on the roller coaster of this article here, and Lady Liberty 17 pointed this out on Twitch, when they were talking about how none of the white people that we tested had the virus, but all the black people did. Yeah. Well, okay, so if you're trying to say that the disadvantaged poor people and people of color are getting the virus much more, then what's the point of making a law where the white people have to wear masks and the people of color don't have to wear masks? Again, it seems like the other part situation.
The other part, that's a good point. The other thing is the article is talking about how, the people that are actually, spreading the virus, what are they doing? Are they cheating on their spouse? Are they, what kind of social relationships are they having? And to suggest that, white people did not get it means that people that are, the article is suggesting that the white people, the white people in this neighborhood don't do things that are, that need to be kept secret. Like cheating on their spouse or something like that. It's just,
and the other example given was going to church. Did these people go to the same church? Well, these guys in a fish packing plant didn't give it to each other, so we can keep the fish packing plant open. But these people going to church, they might be spreading the disease.
Yeah, so it really is just a whole slew of, I don't know, a surveillance state to the max.
More nonsense.
More nonsense.
State.
And it really, the warnings about the technocratic scientific elite, I mean, this is it right here. This is how the excuse of a virus was always going to be used to really up the surveillance state. And this is that next level where they can really get into every little nook and cranny of what you're doing because the Rona. Fear the Rona.
Yeah.
Another
example of how, you read these articles who are keeping us up to date, keeping the people safe and informed about coronavirus. And all it does is propose more disturbing questions than it does answer anything.
Yeah.
We've got coronavirus sharks, and we're not making the most at-risk people allegedly, making it so we're encouraging them not to wear masks because, they could be in more danger wearing a mask. Although I just can't believe that, but yeah. All right. There you go. That's very enlightening. Again, that whole article is quite the roller coaster, but piece by piece, when you take a look at it individually, it's just one deception is not the word I'm looking for, but it's just one
you can label
sort
it a
of
deception.
Incongruency after another.
Right. And it goes hand in hand with the rest of the COVID stories we have here. So
yeah. Well, yeah. Speaking of which, let's hit this next story.
COVID.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
That's right. Let's stay all nice and safe in our people's zoo. And one example of that, this is on consequenceofsound.net. It's like a music news outlet. And the article is titled, "A Herd Immunity Rock Festival is Happening in July. Static X, Nonpoint, Dope, and more to play." So much for no tours or festivals until 2021. The 3-day Herd Immunity Fest has just been announced, taking place July 16th through 18th, 2020. That's right, 2020. The Ringgold, Wisconsin, in Ringgold, Wisconsin. Ringgold, Wisconsin. Never heard of that place. Static X, Nonpoint, Dope, Boba Flex, Royal Bliss, and more are coming. The bands set to play are among the bands. I gotta make my font bigger.
Which bands do you know out of this list? I only know one.
Static X. I've heard of Royal Bliss, but I couldn't pick them out of a crowd.
Yeah, Static X is the only one I remember from way back in the day. The lead singer had this crazy hair that was like straight up, you know? I don't know if you remember that guy, but yeah.
I do not, but I trust you. I trust your memory. The Mini Fest will only feature a total of 15 bands spread out over 3 days and will take place on an outdoor stage at the Q&Z Expo Center. If it goes off as planned, it would likely be the first rock festival featuring national touring acts to take place since the pandemic started. When a posting from the festival's promoter on the Q&Z Expo Center Facebook page reads, quote, "When the lockdown first happened, my first thought was, okay, we can all do 2 weeks. Then it went on and on. Things were getting canceled. I started to worry about people not only for this COVID, but mental, physical, and financial. As humans, we need other human contact." The statement continues, "Music in itself is great, but the live streams, as I am sure you all know, is just not the same. We need live. We'll do it live. Feel it to the bones, run shivers up your spine. Music with people around us takes us all away on a trip that unless you have felt it, you don't understand. So it's our honor to bring you this mini fest. Let's make it a fun, safe weekend, and let's be kind to each other. Spread the word by sharing the event and invite your friends. The festival has been confirmed by several of the bands, Static X, Dope, Royal Bliss, and others, each making the announcement on their respective Facebook pages. Update, June 24th, a live update. Nonpoint dropped off the bill once they heard the festival's name.
Bad PR.
Yeah. And the festival itself has ditched the Herd Immunity name following backlash. Also on the bill, they talk about more bands on the bill.
So what are they calling it?
I'm looking around. Let's see. Festival announcement comes as a surprise amid health experts suggesting that concerts and festivals won't return in earnest until fall of 2021, or at least until the COVID-19 vaccine is developed and implemented. That said, veteran rocker Sammy Hagar just said he'd be willing to get sick and even die to get the concert industry going again. Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled against a stay-at-home order in May, prompting Governor Tony Evers to call his state the Wild West with no lockdown in place. Yeah, interesting. So there you go. They ditched the herd immunity concert, which I don't know why that would be such a big deal. I mean, herd immunity is a good thing. That's the whole reason, you have chickenpox parties, and the whole point of vaccines, as indicated by Daddy Fauci, is to create herd immunity. So, this is a healthcare festival, mini festival, but apparently that triggered too many people, so they had to change it. But I think this is a good idea. I mean, this is the way, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. We'll see how it turns out, whether it's a good idea or not. But, that's the route that Sweden took. They said, we're not going to do a lockdown because we want to create herd immunity. That's the only way to keep societies safe from disease. And so, we'll see. We'll see how this works out. But apparently, that was too edgy. The name was too edgy.
And they're, it's a good marketing thing for the masks, too. They have the "See You in the Pit" eventually masks on sale.
Eventually.
For $30 for a pair. So,
wow, that's an expensive mask. Have you seen, kind of off topic, but there's been articles floating around about the COVID-19 Essentials store that opened up in a mall in Florida?
I did. I saw some pictures.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. A bunch of mannequin heads with different styles
different
of masks, and it's all marked up with crazy margins, you know? So, yeah, it's a business opportunity for some people.
I know. Pretty sad and ridiculous. But, you know, if we're going to go with the, well, this is interesting also with this concert thing, because I don't know if these bands are towing any kind of political line. But if they are, it would be interesting because depending on what they peddled, it might be the worst thing in the world, or it's totally fine, because we got one little short story here.
COVID.
This is another article making the rounds. TheHill.com. Black Lives Matter protests have not led to spike in coronavirus cases, report.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think we have to even read the article. I'll just read the story at a glance. A new study examines the movement of people in cities where protests have occurred versus where protests did not occur. Researchers found no significant increase in cases following the protest. So there you go. If you're doing social justice, then hey, no problem. No problem. Get out there, do your thing. But if you're doing
the virus only spreads at Trump rallies and rock concerts, does not spread at protests, and especially because the people of color at protests don't need to wear a mask. So that's the secret. Apparently, the secret to defeating COVID is to gather in tens of thousands and not wear masks. Something called herd immunity, apparently.
I should say, you know, I used to have a vaccine jingle that had the herd immunity in there. Let me see if I could pull it up here.
Okay. Yeah, you see that. Let's see. I'm going to browse through this article, see if there's anything specific.
I think this is it here. Let me see if this is it.
We should all just vaccinate. Herd immunity. Oh, get your shots on.
Get your shots on.
Yeah, we find no evidence that urban protests reignited COVID-19 case growth during the more than 2.5 weeks following the protest onset. The researchers write, we conclude that predictions of broad negative public health consequences of Black Lives Matter protests were far too narrowly conceived. So there you go.
So the Ronas is disproportionately going after people of color, but also they don't have to wear masks because of racism.
It used to be that you had to pay a lot of attention and really pick out the double speak, the reverse mind, the mind control, the
double speak,
the thought police. You know, you really had to look deep into these articles to pick it out. And now it's just it's just in your face. You know,
it's kind of like, you know, we've been saying this before, but what used to be satire, like even 10 years ago in 2010, what we would look at a headline and be like, oh, that's satire, you know, now it's just normal headlines.
Well, yeah, you know, it's funny because the Babylon Bee, beloved satirical Christian news site, you know, they would make fun of a lot of this stuff, saying, I mean, they pretty much had an article titled Coronavirus, you know, spreads quickly in churches, but gathering for protest is totally safe. And that was early on when it was satire, and now it's not actually satire. Right. The Babylon Bee is slowly transforming into an actual news site.
Yeah, there was a pretty funny Babylon Bee this morning that I saw that I wanted to maybe pull up if I can find it, but we don't have to. It's just one of those.
It's a good time if you find it. But let's get down into some Chaz stuff and some more race war stuff, and then some CRISPR. But before that, Gons, let's take a quick break.
Quick break.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
take a break.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, people. We got some updates, some really big updates going on at the CHOP, the Seattle Autonomous Zone, as well as some CRISPR updates, some very important stuff to follow about CRISPR. So stick around in just a minute. We're going to get back into the stories, but we just want to take a quick break and thank some of our new Twitch followers. Gonzo.
Ready to go.
For those who have listened to the show for at least a couple episodes, you know that we're trying to hit some goals over on Twitch to help us support ourselves during this time. But also, it's a good backup because YouTube has made a habit of demonetizing, taking down videos, interrupting streams, stuff like that. So as a backup, we recommend everybody go to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. We'll pop the link in the chat there for anybody who wants to make the switch. And as a thank you, we want to give a shout out to some of our new followers. Now, Gons, we got a very angry message yesterday or the day before that, unfortunately from a producer of the show, who was very upset that we take the time to thank people on the show for supporting and following. This person was a supporter themselves. And they were very upset that we didn't put out an extra edited episode just for, well, them or whoever doesn't want to hear us thank people who support the show. And they very quickly stopped supporting the show after that. So I'm here to trigger everybody who doesn't like us appreciating people who support the show. So here we go. Get ready to get triggered, everybody. Gons, you got your dinger dinged?
Ding, ding, ready.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to just zoom through. Some of these are very funny, so you'll see. First of all, we got Deli of Doom. Thank you, Deli of Doom. Soey Not. Thanks, Soey Not, for following us. Herb Handler, or Herb Handler.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Rebecca is waiting for Rapture.
Very good.
There you go,
Aren't
waiting
we all?
around. Where has my basil gone?
I like that one.
Good.
That's good.
Where is my basil guns? Junior 5 Rider. Thank you, Junior 5 Rider. This is a good one. Big Daddy Basil Meow Meow. Then we have pseudonym. Thank you, pseudonym. Miguel Carros Jr. Thank you, Miguel Carros Jr. Jen Ann TV. Revive Us Again. Thanks for the follow. Revive Us Again. I Leone. Thank you, I Leone. Joy Teaser. And
just a
White.
tease.
What?
Just a tease of joy,
Yes,
not
just
full
teasing
joy.
it.
Just a tease. Yeah.
And then White Wave. Thank you very much, White Wave.
All right.
Let's see here. Hold on a second. Holy smokes. Oh, no.
Did you
Sorry.
lose your VR?
No. Whoa, this is incredible. No, I just refreshed the page of followers to see if we had any new ones, and we do. I'm going to speed through. I'm going to keep speeding through.
Okay.
Here we go. Cold reads. I'm a horrible person, Romans 5. Thank you. I'm a horrible person, Romans 5. Ezekiel the Paladin. Egypt 911. DJ Peace. Sir Lowe's. This is a good one. Follow Canary Cry Radio.
I like that one.
Great username. F. Tilekaralar. Aerofol Gun. Orkan Mani. Furkan Kurlik. Anil Duran. Spinsters just want to have fun.
Wow.
Fire Sticks.
I like it.
Oh, this is a great one. Double Chin Nephilim.
Yes.
And
is some old
Spliff
reference.
Roland. Thank you very much, Spliff Roland. Thank you guys so much for following us over on Twitch. We hope you are enjoying it. Please watch the show if you can on Twitch. Helps us out quite a bit. It's the easiest way to support the show. But if nothing else, it's a good backup because you never know when we're going to disappear off of any of the platforms. So thank you very much, all of our new followers. Thank you for watching the show. And we will be thanking some new producers of the show later on. So stick around for that. As well as Gons, we have another knighting to do today.
We do.
That's right. The round
It's
table,
awesome.
the Canary Cry round table of knights and dames continues to grow.
Yes. Am I supposed to add to that?
No, but since we're on it, let's get back into the show.
Let's do it. Hold on. What are we going into? Oh, we're going into some.
Remember, we
go.
have our out of break jingle though.
Oh,
that we
right.
just got new.
Here we go.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Wake up. Wake up
This
out
is just
there.
Let's see a little alarm for the listeners who just take the break as a
tune out.
moment to take a little nap.
Yeah. Okay, so we have along the same lines here.
The race wars.
Race wars.
Race war.
I've warned you and warned you and warned you.
Cancel culture.
Boom.
Boom. Uh-oh. Continue without disabling. This is WND.com. Tear them down. BLM says Jesus statues are white supremacy.
We did
And
it.
this
We
is,
finally made it. It only took a day from that, I forgot his name, the leader of some conservative group saying, oh, they're tearing down Confederate statues. It's only a matter of time before they call for the removal of Jesus statues. And
I think it happened on the same day that we went live. I think we just missed the article.
I saw it the day after, but it could have been on the same show day. So here we go. Here's the update, and it's happening.
Yeah. Black Lives Matter activist Sean King called Monday for the removal of statues, murals, and stained glass windows that depict Jesus as a white European, which he claimed are a form of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, yes, I think the statues of the white European they claim is Jesus should also come down. King, a former surrogate of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign, wrote on Twitter, they are a form of white supremacy, always have been. King's targeting of religious artwork comes as various activist groups have moved beyond tearing down Confederate statues and are now calling for the removal of other historical monuments. In the Bible, when the family of Jesus wanted to hide and blend in, guess where they went? He added, Egypt, not Denmark. Tear them down. Sean King there. Quote, all murals and stained glass windows of white Jesus and his European mother and their white friends should also come down, King wrote in a second tweet. They are a gross form of white supremacy. A spokesperson for King didn't immediately return a request for additional comment. So there you go. Wrongfully depicting Jesus as a white man.
Yeah, and our response to that, which we'll just reiterate for any new listeners here, the talk about tearing down Confederate statues. Personally, I don't have any connection to the South or Confederate stuff. So, my original stance was, hey, this erasing of history stuff isn't that cool because of the 1984, type agenda and stuff like that. Then the point was made about, well, Satan is a big, historical figure as far as Christian history is going, but it would be very strange if we had a bunch of, statues of Satan up there and got mad if people were tearing them down. Of course, we would want to tear those down. In fact, there are statues of Satan across the country. I wouldn't mind
statues and stuff.
Wouldn't mind those getting taken down. But the long story short is that, statues of Jesus, that isn't Jesus. But personally, we're not big fans of, we don't need iconography, statues or paintings or anything of Jesus, who, as we know, was, one prevailing theory being that that image was the nephew of a pope. His name was Caesar Borgia, something like that.
Yeah,
that's where the traditional white Jesus sort of image came from one of the Pope's nephews. That's a disputed
Yeah, it comes much later. There are earlier depictions of Jesus from Rome that show him as more Roman in
yes,
hue,
right,
if you will. So,
but the long story short being, if you're a Christian, you don't need a statue of Jesus to worship. In fact, depending what flavor you are, a statue of Jesus might actually be a negative thing. But long story short here, this is including stained glass windows and things like that, but it's finally happening. Jesus is racist, and we need to tear down the statues, apparently.
Well, this Jesus is racist. I'm going to throw in this real quick. This is a Babylon Bee headline. With statues gone, pigeons forced to poop on rioters. That's next.
That's funny.
And then they're going to call the pigeon poop racist because, a lot of it is white.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
See, I'm ahead. I'm on the wall. We watch.
Our resident person of color. You are.
I'm just warning you guys.
Finely tuned to spot the racism everywhere it pops up.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else to say about that?
No. I think we all get the absurdity that is at hand. The 1984, both in the COVID 1984 and the tearing down of statues and everything else, because I'll say this, one of the things with the imagery and all this kind of stuff, it still is part of history, Right. So the argument, I kind of fall in the middle where I understand, the sentiment to want to tear down statues, to not understand or agree with it, but I understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, it's also part of our history, regardless of whether you agree with something or not. Unless it's blatantly being used as a piece of worship, in which case, we can have arguments about whether that should be torn down or not based on some Old Testament things going on with tearing down, high places and stuff. But other than that, in terms of the historical value for these things, whether they come across as European looking Jesus or not, it's just kind of dumb because what are you going to, okay, great. We tear down all the Jesuses that look like he's European. So what? The world is better now? Are we in a better society because of that or what?
Oh, Gons. You've obviously been brainwashed by the white supremacists. So.
Oh, yeah, I'm complicit with the white folk.
I don't know, man. Yeah. I mean, we have different views on that, and that's okay. But let's see here. Well, I had another point, but I forgot it. I got distracted by chat, so we'll just have to wait for it. I'm surprised in chat. I was a little afraid about, not being angrier about all the statues getting taken down, whether they're of Confederates or of Jesus or whatever. But it seems like a lot of people in chat are on the same page, and that's cool. I don't know. It not reminds me of, but to put it in another, sort of another perspective. The one thing in the generation that you and I grew up in, the one sort of statue taking down image that I have in my mind is when they pulled down the statue of Saddam Hussein.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to take the historical approach to why keep statues up, well, then why are we tearing down statues of Saddam Hussein? Oh no, the show burps are coming on. Anyways, just people not wanting the icons of an oppressive past being put in their face every time they're driving around. But there you go. We'll keep you. I liked there's a meme going around of people posing by different statues, and it was titled, "Tired of persecution, the statues are starting to fight back." And it was these people, pretending to get hit or stomped on by statues. Very funny.
I will say this, though. The statue of the article on this WND article, the statue of Jesus himself depicted as a white European, it's brown. The whole thing is brown.
Right. It's
so if we're going to talk about color. Anyway. Yeah. Just pointing out the absurdity.
I hear you. Okay, let's talk about Chaz, Gons, because we got some big updates on Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
Get in the zone.
Capitol Hill Auto Zone.
Chaz.
That's right, Chaz. I always step on
you
that
always
last
step
part.
on. I'm going to do it one more time.
Keep forgetting.
So people get the full effect of the jingle.
Get in the zone.
Capitol Hill Auto Zone.
Chaz stinks.
There it is.
Thank you.
Oh, I've remembered what I was going to mention about the last article real quick. Again, just responding to what I'm seeing in the chat there. Somebody made the point that tearing down statues of Jesus, is just the beginning of Christian persecution, and I can totally understand that line of thinking. Although somebody else in the chat retorted with, "Yeah, Jesus said we were going to be persecuted. It should come as no surprise, and there's probably no way to stop it.
Yes.
Since so it is written, so it shall be."
And plus, the point, I talk about Revelation 13 a lot, and the image of the beast. And one very specific point is that the people of the world are deceived into building the image of the first beast. They're told by the false prophet to build it, and everyone builds it. So
yeah.
There's like this reverse. There's definitely like a herd or a hive mind type of situation with the end times, and this is sort of maybe the beginnings of that in terms of tearing everything down, so that once everyone is in compliance, they can build the actual image of the beast itself.
Right. And there are some flat earthers in the chat there saying we need to tear down all the globe statues.
Oh, well, hey, there we
go. That's a racing history.
That is a racing history.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
Back to Chaz. Back to Chaz Chop here, because this is a big
Chaz
one.
Chop.
Chaz Chop.
So
this
you
is
spelled shop on the Facebook post there, by the way.
I know, a little bit of typos there. What can I say? I was going quick. This is from Q13fox.com, so it's a local Seattle outlet here, and the article is titled what?
Sorry, go on. I said QA.
Seattle will move to dismantle CHOP, which is the alternate name for Chaz, protest zone, Mayor Durkin says. Durkin's making moves. Faced with growing pressure to crack down on an occupied protest zone following 2 weeks of shootings, as we've reported, lots of violence and shootings have started happening recently. Seattle's mayor said Monday that officials will move to wind down the blocks-long span of city streets taken over 2 weeks ago that President Donald Trump asserted is run by anarchists. Mayor Jenny Durkin said the violence was distracting from changes sought by thousands of peaceful protesters opposing racial inequality and police brutality. She said at a news conference that the city is working with the community to bring the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest Zone, or CHOP, to an end, and that police soon would move back into a precinct building they had largely abandoned in the area. Durkin also vowed to address some of the protesters' demands, including investigating more black communities. Investing more black communities.
That's your white privilege coming through there, Basil.
I know, it's my privilege is showing. Okay, let me start that whole paragraph over. Okay. Durkin also vowed to address some of the protesters' demands, including investing more in black communities, reimagining policing in cooperation with community leaders, and pushing for accountability measures and statewide reform of police unions. The mayor did not give an immediate timeline for clearing out the occupation, but said, quote, additional steps would be examined if people don't leave voluntarily. Yeah, good luck with that. With scores of people camping in a park in the protest zone, Durkin said peaceful demonstrations could continue, but nighttime disorder had to stop. Quote, the cumulative impacts of the gatherings and protests and the nighttime atmosphere and violence has led to increasingly difficult circumstances for our businesses and residents, Durkin said. The impacts have increased and the safety has decreased. A shooting Sunday night was the second in in less than 48 hours at the edge of the zone, which is named for Capitol Hill neighborhood near downtown Seattle, and emerged during nationwide protests over the killing of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police. The 17-year-old victim, I didn't know the victim was 17. That's too bad. The 17-year-old victim was shot in the arm and declined to speak with detectives, police said. Oh, snitches get stitches, guns. Yeah. Gunfire early Saturday left a 19-year-old man dead and another person critically wounded. The victims were taken to a hospital by volunteer medics in private cars, and police said they were met by a hostile crowd that prevented them from immediately getting to the scene. It was not apparent if the shootings had anything to do with the protests. Gunfire sometimes occurs in the neighborhood, especially on warm summer nights. Protesters cordoned off the several block area near the police's East Precinct after Seattle riot squads unleashed tear gas, pepper spray, and flashbangs on large crowds of mostly peaceful protesters, drawing condemnation from many city leaders and a federal court order temporarily banning the use of the weapons on demonstrators. After police largely abandoned the building, okay, so we're going into the whole history of the Chaz Chop Zone here. At night, however, the atmosphere has become more charged, with demonstrators marching and armed volunteer guards keeping watch. Yeah, we know that. We've been following that. Here's a quote: that Chop area is attracting this kind of activity and it's unsafe, Taylor said in a Facebook video. I told them all these people that were supporting you guys, they're going to start walking away from you, especially all those white people that were following you. They don't want to be associated with any part of that violence. Former U.S. Representative Dave Reichert, a Republican who previously served as sheriff in the county where Seattle is located, also called on the city to take back control. Quote, elected officials have abandoned the rule of law and their oath to protect and defend our communities, he wrote in an opinion piece for Washington State Wire, a website devoted to state political views. Quote, they have abandoned their law-abiding citizens and have been cowardly, bullied into surrendering the East Precinct and multiple city blocks. So there you go. They're claiming that they're going to start retaking the Chaz Chop area. I can't imagine that the protesters are going to let that happen peacefully. You know, you when you back down like that and you give up some territory, it becomes increasingly difficult to take it back. And especially without, violent means. If people just don't leave, it's another opportunity for the tear gas to fly, and that could end up being dangerous. But the whole thing has been dangerous. I'm sure some people are disappointed.
Yeah, and of course we reported on Trump saying that he's going to take care of the situation if the local authorities don't. So, I mean, this is putting all these local officials in between a rock and a hard place. They're trying to keep everybody safe, but at a certain point, if they're not going to do something about it, then you're going to have a bigger police state situation at hand here with the bigger guns coming in, so to speak. So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe she's trying to dismantle it in a peaceful way, or as peaceful as possible, I suppose. Obviously, everybody wants that.
We'll see. That'll be very interesting. We'll have to follow the story. And of course, Durkin and the Governor Inslee had some strong words to retort to Trump, talking about, sending in the military after they gave up the area. So, they took some hard stances, and we'll see if they're able to take back the area without igniting more flames. I'm having a hard time believing that that's possible.
I think she should get on a horse and just walk in, what movie am I thinking of? I don't know.
About some a person on a horse?
No.
Seabiscuit.
No, but maybe. But she, without any weapons or anything, she has to walk in herself to talk to Raz and whoever else is in there to try to come to some kind of agreement.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't give a timeline, because I want to know when to tune in and see what starts happening. But
you know what I've thought about too.
Mm-hmm.
We often talk about the level of surveillance technology that exists, and the elite must be sitting in their little bunkers or whatever and pointing whatever sky eyes they have in locations like this and keeping track of what's going on. And I mean, they the elite, they have a lot of power. Obviously, we don't know who exactly they are in terms of names. We know the names of the Rothschilds and the George Soroses and those types of people, and the Bill Gates and all that. But we know that like the real powerful people in this world, they're not really public. And so I'm really curious what their sort of chess moves are in terms of some of the stuff too.
Well,
like,
and it's going to be
Chaz,
interesting, especially with all the threats of martial law that have come over the past few months. We've had like 2 or 3 martial law scares, first for coronavirus, then for the protests and for this and that. And and Trump pretty much outright threatening martial law in response to this Chaz Chop area. But, you always got to keep an eye out for martial law being implemented. Now, it seems like the mayor is trying to avoid that, but you never know, man. If it's one of those things where you kind of, people involved in this autonomous zone or the occupied protest area, you got to be careful because if force does get involved, it's gonna be dangerous, and they're going to achieve their goals, and it's just a matter of
the military is going to come in. They're going to win. Like it doesn't matter what you have going on, what kind of whatever. They're going to win in terms of taking over or taking back the property.
Right.
So any resistance that they find, they're going to. I don't know, man. It's tough.
Yeah.
I don't want to see any of these people.
You push them to the edge there. That's what you're going to get.
The protesters, the Raz, all those people, I don't want any of them to get hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see any of these people be in a situation where they have to hurt anymore, but also, because if it gets to that martial law, military type of situation, they're just going to mow them down. You're going to have like a lot of casualties.
Yeah.
Legally.
And that's going to spark more violence and issues across the whole country. It's a set of dominoes is really what it's come down to, is this whole thing starting, I would say starting on, January 1st, and then starting with Kobe, then coronavirus, murder hornets, then riots. Basically, there's been a line of dominoes that are set up. And the problem is once the dominoes start falling, there's no way to stop it. And that's kind of where we're at. There's no choice. Everybody's thrown their hats over their respective fences, and they have to take back the Chaz. They're not going to let it go. Then police force and, God forbid, military force will be used, which will then spark the next round of riots and protests against martial law. And then it's. I would like to try to take an optimistic view of things, but I just am having a hard time seeing where in the falling line of dominoes, if you can take one out fast enough, then you can stop it. But I just don't think it's going to happen that way.
Yeah. Falcon Man Racer in the chat said, this is YouTube, said a well-organized militia would easily best the military. And, I used to think that too. I used to think, the people can always overcome, but we're talking about the technocracy here. And that's why I was talking about the elite behind the curtain, so to speak, the people you don't see.
Yeah,
man, if they have dues, directed energy weapons, I don't care how many people are gathered to fight the government. They're just going to blast everybody.
Yeah.
And we've talked
swarms,
about, they just have technologies that are way beyond what your common citizen can get. And so
Predator drones.
The whole point is, regardless of how it ends up.
Oh, it's a new world order. It's here.
The dominoes are falling. That's
it's
right.
just kind of the reality of the situation here.
Yeah. So we'll keep keeping an eye on Chaz Chop there. We'll see what happens. I'm not looking forward to it. And if you are in Chaz Chop, I know we had some listeners who lived pretty close by. They mentioned they were going to try to go in there and get some some boots on the ground. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but if you can do it safely and, not get in the way of any of the violence or anything, then, I'd be interested in finding out. But nobody should be putting themselves in harm's way for our sake.
Yeah, don't do that for the show. We appreciate it, but certainly not. And we'll have to see.
Yeah,
we'll have to see what goes on. We're going to keep tabs on it.
Let's, what do you say we move forward here? What else we got?
Oh, that's the old one.
Whoa, yeah.
Where's the
missing some
missing
vocals.
stuff? Well, let me see if this is I think no, that's the baby one. Hold on. I'm going to try to find it here. Do you want to read the story? I'll find the jingle because that was a disappointment. Hold on.
It's okay.
Let me see
All
here.
right. Yep. We got a little CRISPR update here. For those who don't know, CRISPR, the gene editing technology that's been making waves for a few years, and we believe will play a big role in the coming technocracy and the hard decisions when it comes to tampering with the image. Here we go. This is from NPR.org, and the article is titled, "A Year In, the First Patient to Get Gene Editing for Sickle Cell Disease is Thriving." Okay, so we've got a medical story. Like
we actually, before you get into this, we reported on this probably about a year ago, saying that they're going to start the testing of CRISPR on people with sickle cell disease. So this is kind of like an update for those of you who have been around for a while.
Playing the long game. Here's your long-term update. Like millions of other Americans, Victoria Gray has been sheltering at home with her children as the U.S. struggles through a deadly pandemic and as protests over police violence have erupted across the country. But Gray is not like any other American. She's the first person with a genetic disorder to get treated in the United States with the revolutionary gene editing technique called CRISPR. And as the 1-year anniversary of her landmark treatment approaches, Gray has just received good news. The billions of genetically modified cells doctors infused into her body clearly appear to be alleviating virtually all of the complications of her disorder. Sickle cell disease. Quote, "It's wonderful. It's the change I've been waiting on my whole life," Gray told NPR, which has had exclusive access to chronicle her experience over the past year. Sickle cell disease, a rare blood disorder that disproportionately affects African Americans in the U.S., can be difficult to treat effectively. The last time NPR spoke with Gray in November, her doctors had just gotten the first hints the treatment might be working. Now, after 9 months of careful testing, the treatment shows no signs of waning, making her doctors more confident than ever the experiment has been a success. Quote, "It's hard to put into words the joy that I feel, being grateful for a change this big. It's been amazing," said Gray, 34, who lives in Forest, Mississippi. In many ways, it's a change that came just in time, Gray said. In the fall, the National Guard deployed her husband to Washington, and, oh, that's interesting, in the fall. And then the coronavirus pandemic triggered a national lockdown. Gray was suddenly home alone with 3 of her kids. Her great aunt, as well as the pastor of her childhood church, died of COVID-19. Friends at her current church have been getting sick. Again, the connection of COVID and church over and over, in a lot of unrelated articles. It's just being slipped in there. Church bad. If you go to church, you will die, and you will kill everybody around you if you go to church. And then George Floyd was killed. Now, of course, protesting's fine, but not church. And then George Floyd was killed by police in Minnesota. "I feel like everything happened so fast," she said. "It hasn't been easy." Same, girl. I feel ya. If she hadn't had the treatment, Gray said she doesn't know how she'd be coping. She would have been too weak to care for her children and probably would have been hospitalized at a time when hospitals feel especially unsafe. Quote, "Since my treatment, I've been able to do everything for myself, everything for my kids, and it's been joy not only for me, but for the people around me that's in my life," she said. The researchers conducting the study, Gray started, The researchers conducting the study, Gray started caution that it too soon to, am I having a stroke? Is that how it reads to you? The
researchers conducting the study, Gray started, caution that it's too soon to reach any firm conclusions about the long-term safety and effectiveness of the approach.
Thank you very much. Gray is just one patient who has been followed for what is still a relatively short period of time, they noted. But Gray's experience so far, along with 2 other patients who received the same treatment for a similar disorder, indicate the therapy has been effective for her and may work for other patients as well, they said. Quote, to have it work in this way is extremely thrilling to see and extremely exciting, said Dr. Haydar Frangoul, hype man of CRISPR technology.
Ghoul.
Frangoul, spooky doctor. Of the Sarah Cannon Research Institute in Nashville, Tennessee, who is treating Gray. At a meeting of the European Hematology Association on June 12th, Frangoul and other researchers presented the latest results of their latest testing of Gray, as well as 2 study subjects with a related condition, beta thalassemia. The latter also appeared to be benefiting. Quote, it's very exciting. Wow, okay. This is like the 5th quote of people just saying that this is exciting. It's
good job, NPR.
Exciting,
some CRISPR propaganda.
If you can't get anything else out of this, just know it's very exciting, said Dr. David Altschuler, Chief Scientific Officer at Vertex Pharmaceuticals in Boston, which is developing the treatment with CRISPR Therapeutics in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Quote, patients and families have been waiting a very long time for a highly effective therapy. The company has also revealed that a second sickle cell patient has been treated as part of their research program, along with 3 other beta thalassemia patients. The promising results are also encouraging other doctors and researchers who hope CRISPR may also lead to new treatments for many diseases. Studies have already tested CRISPR to treat cancer and a rare genetic condition that causes blindness. CRISPR enables scientists to make changes in DNA much more easily than before. Quote, I think this is a huge leap for the medical field, Frangoul told NPR in an interview. Sickle cell disease is caused by a genetic mutation. Okay, let me browse through here. Unless you want to hear exactly what sickle cell is, Gons.
I'm okay. I think most of our audience are probably at least has a peripheral view of what that is.
So
and how
it's
it affects people.
then they go into a few paragraphs here of the sort of sciency-ness of what sickle cell is and how they hope to use CRISPR to fix it. Another promising finding is that a biopsy of Gray's bone marrow cells found more than 81% of the cells contained the intended genetic change needed to produce fetal hemoglobin, indicating the edited cells were continuing to survive and function in her body for a sustained period.
Sorry, I'm skipping down to the bottom and I'm looking for more quotes. And the quote from Gray is, it's a very big deal for me. It's a huge change.
Sounds like a Trump speech.
I was hoping for more. Yeah, I was hoping for more. I don't know. We get it. She's excited. It's good that it's helping her. And we've talked about the implications of, the long-term implications versus the short-term and helping people with diseases or other health issues with CRISPR. So this is that example of seeing how this type of technology, the CRISPR tech, can help people that have these conditions and stuff. And, you got to be for that in terms of making people feel healthy and stuff. It's just the slippery slope.
Well,
where does that take us?
And one of the biggest problems that we're seeing with CRISPR, and of course, there's been articles out recently with CRISPR being used on human embryos being tested in the United States, and caused huge amounts of unintended sort of cascading consequences. Enough so that one of the lead researchers came out and said, "Nope, everybody stop! Nobody should do this. This is a horrible idea."
Right.
But this sickle cell patient, Gray, this was one of the first long-term experiments for, the medical uses of CRISPR in particularly. And so, it is exciting that it's, curing this disease that is to my knowledge, considered uncurable. But when you now, if you really think about the details of the paragraph I just read, that 81% of the cells in her bone marrow are replications of the CRISPR edited gene. And it's really interesting because, we're not genetic experts. We do like to keep up with all things genetic news as part of our beat on the show. So I would say that we are good at informing ourselves. But, there's an interesting concept here, being that you can have multiple sets of DNA replicating themselves in your body. And we're a year later on this particular patient, which is a good start to a long-term study. But as we've seen in other CRISPR uses and experiments, a lot of times, the downstream consequences, when you start messing around with genes, they can start affecting other genes and cause other problems. Now, I didn't see any report of any negative consequences being, a result of this experiment. But, I think it's worth keeping an eye on, and hopefully, we'll pray that she does get to live a long and happy life as a result of this breakthrough. But if there are unforeseen long-term circumstance or consequences of this, it's gonna say a lot about the viability of gene tampering in general, which, on a general level, I think we have a very healthy skepticism of tampering with DNA and the building blocks of human beings.
Yeah. And 81% of the cells contained the intended genetic change, indicating that edited cells were continuing to survive and functioning, which shows, in this case, a positive type of genetic change. But think about a negative or a quote unquote enhanced type of genetic change and how quickly it can change, the human body in general. If it's curing this kind of thing now, and let's say we want people to change their, eye color or something like that, it's you can see the effects taking place rather quickly. And in this case, it definitely created a spokesperson. It's almost like a human interest story, pro CRISPR human interest story. At the end here, again, it quotes Gray here. "We need this right now more than ever. It's a blessing. It gave me hope when I was losing it. So I feel joy, knowing that there is hope." These are all very, and I get it in the context of life.
Rhetorically, very positive message here.
Right. And these are, you talk to people, and I've, known people, and I'm sure you have, Basil, that have had cancer that were very, people of God, that they don't lose hope. They don't lose, they think about the blessings of what they've had or what they've had in life. And it's that whole eternal hope, the hope that's unseen, so it's interesting how there's a propaganda arm here, if we're going to look at this from that angle, where you're not going to find hope in God. You're going to find hope and blessings in CRISPR.
Science is truth, Guns.
Of course. Sorry. My bad. Daddy Fauci is correct.
So there you go. There's an update on Gray, the sickle cell patient that we've been following for about a year. So far, so good. But we'll keep watching and to my knowledge right now, this is the most effective CRISPR, the most effective or the only effective CRISPR treatment, and the most promising medical use that we've seen come out of the technology. And, in a time where the fight for equality amongst or for minorities and people of color like yourself, Gons, it's there you go. We have sickle cell anemia is traditionally thought of as being specifically an African American disease, although there are cases of non-African people having it. But it's I don't have it in front of me, but I was doing some looking into it specifically about sickle cell in context of what we're talking about here. And it has some sort of connection to malaria, statistically. So part of the reason why, people in Africa and those of African descent, they think it might genetically be a response or a malaria defense or something like that.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly how that's relevant right now, but it was just an interesting fact that I found during my digging.
Interesting. Well, we're just going to zap them all with CRISPR.
CRISPR. Cas9.
We haven't actually talked about CRISPR in several episodes, so we have another update here. This one's from the National Science Foundation, the NSF.gov. Light-activated CRISPR enables fast, precise gene editing and detection of DNA repair. Talked about the luciferase on the quantum dots and all that stuff with the light. I don't know that is directly related, but interesting how light is being used here. Yep. In a series of experiments co-founded by the National Science Foundation, scientists at Johns Hopkins have used light as a trigger to make quick, precise cuts in the genomic material of human cancer cell lines. The researchers cut the DNA within seconds using a molecular scalpel known as CRISPR, and were able to observe how repair proteins arrive at the damaged site and fix it within minutes. Of course, all that stuff happened via evolution, right?
Right.
There's no design here. These little repair proteins come and fix it.
Crazy religious person.
Results of the experiments published in the journal Science not only reveal new details about the DNA repair process, but also are likely, the researchers say, to aid understanding of how this process can cause aging and many cancers. Quote, "Our new system of gene editing allows for targeted DNA cutting within seconds after activation," says Yang Liu, a member of the team. "With previous technologies, gene editing could take much longer, even hours. The powerful CRISPR tool has enabled scientists to easily change or edit DNA sequences and alter gene functions, and has accelerated research on gene-linked conditions. Adapted from a naturally occurring..." This is like normal CRISPR stuff, isn't it? Like normal CRISPR knowledge? Adapted from the naturally occurring gene editing system found in bacteria, CRISPR uses small sequences of genetic material called RNA as a kind of guide that is coded to match and bind to a specific sequence of genomic DNA within a cell. The CRISPR molecule also contains an enzyme called Cas9, which acts as the scalpel to cut out the DNA sequence.
Right. Yeah.
For the new experiments, the scientists modified the CRISPR-Cas9 complex by engineering a light-sensitive RNA molecule that allows the CRISPR complex to cut genomic DNA in living cells only when exposed to a particular wavelength of light.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
The team then delivered an electric pulse to cultures of human embryonic kidney cells and bone cancer cells, which opened pores in the cells' membranes and allowed this new fast CRISPR complex, VF CRISPR, to enter. By shining light on the cells, the researchers were able to turn on VF CRISPR and track the amount of time it needed to cut the DNA. They found that more than 50% of the DNA target sites were cut within 30 seconds. This fast trigger enabled them to monitor the subsequent cellular response, including DNA repair as it happened. Quote, "Timing is everything when studying or modulating the dynamic properties of life at molecular and cellular levels," says Manju Hingorani, a program director in NSF's Division of Molecular and Cellular Biosciences, which funded the research. Quote, "With this new CRISPR technology, scientists can get to the right place on the genome at the right time to catch the action." So there you go.
That
this
is
new
very interesting. And just to sum that up for people, if you tuned out for a second, basically they added a process within a CRISPR-Cas9 treatment or technology that is activated by light. And, when we get into our sort of deeper, crazier conspiracy talks about CRISPR and how it could be delivered to, a mass population, through whatever you want, some water supply, some chemtrails, some food supply. Now that the FDA's made it so you don't have to put your secret CRISPR ingredients on the label. It could be disseminated that way. Who knows? But having a delivery system, deliver a Cas9 alteration, a CRISPR alteration to a mass population, and then have it activated with a certain wavelength of light, activating a big group of people for their DNA to change. I don't know. I think now we're on to something now, Guns.
Yeah,
and of course the connection between light and Lucifer and things like that.
Well, light and Lucifer, but also early people on the YouTube channel and the Canary Cry Radio listeners will remember the research of Doug Hamp and his book Corrupting the Image, and he talked about how there are passages. Basically, he has an article. I'm trying to pull it up here. This one's from 2011. Bodies of Light and Atoms Biophotons. And basically this idea of our resurrected bodies, our sort of eternal bodies are emitting light. Right. And that goes back to the whole face like the sun, where I got that name. Moses in the desert coming down from the mountain, and his face was shining. They had to put a bag on his face. And,
right.
And Jesus, his transfiguration on what I believe was Mount Hermon, same thing. He started glowing and stuff. There's something to that. And it's just interesting how the technology here is starting to tap into even that part of, the biblical narrative of these light bodies, these heavenly bodies. And I don't know, it's a rabbit trail to go down if you haven't been down that rabbit trail biblically, but certainly it goes to the opposite, the counterfeit as well. And this whole thing, it's fascinating that they're using light as part of the combination with CRISPR to go in this direction, to see the healing take place and all that. Because DNA, actually, there is light that is emitted from your DNA. That's something that the biophotons.
Yeah.
That's something Doug Hamp pointed out.
An interesting connection as well. Trump, really early on in the lockdown, was talking about using light, injecting light into the veins to kill coronavirus, which sounded so silly. It was at the same time that he was talking about the bleach thing, where everybody misquoted it, saying Trump is telling us to drink bleach. He also talked about, having light input through IV into a vein, which sounded ridiculous, but then there was actually a group who did it. And it's actually an existing medical process. But there was, and this was on a mainstream podcast I was listening to. I forget what it was. It was some NPR podcast where they had a group of doctors that actually put in an IV line that shot light through the needle. And it helped with coronavirus. I haven't heard anything about it since then, but that was one thing that was being attempted. But that's too easy and too cheap. So, the pharma companies can't make any money off of it.
Well, obviously Trump is ahead of the game because
we will launch a new age.
Launch a new age.
Super duper missiles.
Super duper missiles. I don't have that pulled up here, ready to go, but. I do want to mention, this is the passage I was looking for. Matthew 13:43. For all you believers out there, then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And man, that's like a whole different layer to the whole thing as believers. It's like, oh, okay. These scientists, they're trying to figure out, our design, but also... like what if that's what these CRISPR guys did? Well, let's think outside the box a little bit on how we can improve this technology. What are the crazy religious people saying? Oh, that we're made out of light. Oh, light and CRISPR. I don't know.
Booyah. Did it.
Yeah.
Found it. Activate.
Activate.
Okay, Gons. Well, I'm looking at the time here. I think we got just enough time to finish out the show here over the next half hour so we can get you off to your appointments.
Yeah,
and But before we do that, let's take a very quick break and thank some of our new producers.
It's break time!
Come on, take a break. That's right. Now, don't go anywhere because after this very short break, we've got some Beast System supercomputers over there in Japan. We've also got some CERN updates. You know, we get a lot of requests to talk about CERN more, so we're going to be doing that. Some casual things like growing human organs, and things like that. Oh, and some neo-Nazis, some Satanist stuff.
Always fun.
All the fun stuff to take out
land today's episode on neo-Nazis and Satanists. Very good. Yeah, don't miss that.
That's right. So stick around here. But before that, we are going to thank some of our new producers. Now, let me give you some context because, you all watch different streamers, you listen to different podcasts, and you're used to getting hit up for donations. It's, let your podcasters, they're all your classic charity cases. But that's not how we work around here. We work on the value for value model where we put out the show. And if you get any value out of it, it's your opportunity to put value in. And here's the thing. Like in the real world, the people who help the show go financially, they're not just donors. They're not just generous charitable givers. They are producers. I mean, that's just the way of the world. You pay for it, you're a producer. You have some ownership in the show, and you have a direct line to help us, shape the show as we move forward. So, Gons, I want to thank some new producers here. Are you ready?
Ready to go.
Okay, here we go. The first one over on patreon.com/CCNT. Only one producer since last show, and that is Sharon C.
Sharon,
thank you very much,
Welcome.
Sharon C. Everybody, you must thank Sharon C. for helping produce the show that you are listening to right now. So thank you very much. Let's see. Let's hop over to patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. For those who don't know, we do two different shows. We have Canary Cry Radio and we have Canary Cry News Talk. You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk, as you heard in the top of the show. But over on the Canary Cry Radio Patreon, we got a couple more producers. Well, let's see here. Yeah.
Yes,
when was the last show? What day was the last show?
22nd.
22nd. Okay, so we have one new producer,
yes.
And that producer is John C. Thank you very much, John C. And John he's a shoo-in. He's pushing for his knighthood, I think.
Yeah.
There. So that's very nice. Thank you very much. Any new producers over on the Patreon, Gons?
I think we had an upgrade. Did we mention the upgrade from Miss Bomb last time?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Well, she gets a mention again.
There you go.
Because we just mentioned it. Thank you, Miss Bomb, for your upgrade. And from PayPal, is that what you meant? Not Patreon, PayPal?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I should have prepared a little better.
Uh-oh.
I did not pull up the PayPal prior to during the prep hours.
Well, while you look that up,
together.
I just want to remind our listeners and producers that when it comes to the value for value model, we've had the opportunity to advertise on the show for quite a while, which is the way we're kind of used to the world working. No big deal. We're used to the world working where when we give our trust and attention to some sort of media, that they just turn around and sell us like commodities, like cattle, to corporations for their own personal gain. And, we believe that that's part of the reason the world is so crazy and why content and information on the internet is in trouble, because when you take advertising dollars, you are then put at the whim of your advertisers when they say they can just pull their advertising dollars at any moment. If you say the wrong thing or think the wrong wrong thing, or even have people who listen to the show, say or do the wrong thing, then they pull the money, and there you go. You're left in the lurch. And the worst part about that being when content producers feel like they have to tailor their content in order to keep advertisers happy. And that's been the problem throughout the world, and the internet especially. So we decided, the only way to keep our integrity and, not be put in the position where we would need to change a stance or say or not say something, so we can keep our precious advertising dollars. That's why we said, no way, Jose. And we are now funded and produced by our producers who are listeners just like you.
Yep. And we do have one person who came in as a producer on PayPal, Tracy. Thank you, Tracy.
Tracy. Thank you very much, Tracy. All right.
Go.
Now, a fun part of our value for value system is something called the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames. That's right, a select group of people who have been supporting us for a long time. We are in our 9th year of podcasting, and some listeners have been with us that whole entire time. And not only that, they've been supporting us for that time. And so we decided, we stole this from a podcast called The No Agenda Show, which everybody should check out, with Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak. But don't worry, we got permission and we love it. This is when a listener / producer has given the equivalent or exceeded the amount of $1,000 of support or more, and that's a big deal. That is very generous. People who believe in the show, who take ownership of the show and help it keep going. And because of that, we want to take the opportunity to honor and thank them in front of everybody for your new night of the Canary Cry Roundtable. And Gons, what do you say we just get right into it?
Wrong image. There we go. You have to go behind the curtain to retool.
Of course, for knighting anybody, we got to take out our swords here. Here, I'll use a sword today. Let me grab this. There you go.
There it is. Yep. And of course, as a man from Japan, I will pull out my katana.
The man from Japan. That's right. There we go. Okay, we want to call up Sir Jesse. Please step forward to the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have a seat for you. Thanks to your generous support in the amount of $1,000 or more, we are proud to pronounce you a knight of the Canary Cry Roundtable. You shall now be known as Sir Jesse, Knight of the Desert, at the Canary Cry Roundtable, where we have the belt of truthful truthiness, the breastplate of righteous righteousness, custom fit Birkenstocks to carry forth the gospel of peace, the shield of ferocious faith, the helmet of substantiating salvation, the supernatural sword of the Spirit, and, of course, we've got adorable samurai babies, infinitely cute kitties for cuddling, and if you're hungry, we have fancy feast wet food, and, of course, fried wormicorns. Welcome to the Canary Cry Knights and Dames Roundtable, Sir Jesse, Knight of the Desert. Welcome. A round of applause in the chat for Sir Jesse. Very good. Thank you very much. And of course, as always, Sir Jesse, he has a note to read here, Gons, and some very fun jingle requests. So what do we got?
Yes, he said in a note, quote, I discovered the show around 2013 and would lay up all night in bed listening to CCR, Rob Skiba, Steve Quayle, and a whole mess other lectures you can't easily scrub from your brain. I've lost my entire church community that I worked and volunteered for over 7 years. I've struggled to find any community or fellowship since. I felt rejected by everyone and pushed aside by the world as it just keeps going. But God is more real to me than ever before, than I ever thought he could be. And this show has helped me see that. I've gone on to study deeply and love the Word of God in a detail I never thought possible. It is my prayer that this show continues to push people forward on that journey and motivate others like me to go deeper, to discover what the word really says compared to the modern church, what it says about his people, his commandments, and his holy days. Please follow Yahweh before the world, before the church. Follow Yahweh at all costs. And he said he had Psalm 19:7. The law of Yahweh is perfect, reviving the soul.
There you go. Very good. And Sir Jesse, as he mentions there, been listening since 2013, very early on, and he made a request for a jingle from some old school Canary Cry Radio. Actually, we had to go back and dig this up, Gons. It's been a while. We used to do shorter little bonus episode type things on the Canary Cry Radio RSS feed called Apocalypse Updates. And this, I kind of forgot about these, and I went back and listened to it a little bit because of Sir Jesse reminding me, and it's kind of the proto Canary Cry News Talk. That was like us doing Canary Cry News Talk before Canary Cry News Talk was a thing. So I think this is a very apt jingle request.
Yes, and we'll explain what you're about to hear is, but here is the.
This is going to trigger some nostalgia for old school Canary Cry Radio listeners.
You're listening to Canary Cry Flyby.
Apocalypse Update. We're gonna learn about the apocalypse. Everything trying to kill us. But Canary Cry Radio's here to make you fearful of everything else you don't know. So everybody come listen to the Apocalypse Update. Yeah! World's gonna end. Everything is trying to kill you and your friends. Yeah. Apocalypse Update. Yeah.
Yes, me and
goodness.
some of the chatters are having flashbacks of earlier Canary Cry Radio episodes. Very fun, and yeah, we kind of had to remember where this even came from. Apparently, I just sung that for some reason, just off the top of my head, on an episode at some point, and then luckily we had Gons to put his sound producing magic on it.
Yeah, I remember you singing it and recording it. And yes, I think it might have been on an episode too. And because we were talking about having a jingle or a theme song for it.
Right.
And then I think you were messing around and you did it. And then I was able to take the pieces and do a lot.
And make something beautiful out of it.
Do a lot of voice fixing,
some auto-tune
keys, lots of auto-tune, little keyboard jingle type thing, a little drum beat, and that was the result you heard there. So thank you.
Thank you, Sir Jesse, for bringing that blast from the past back to the forefront. And again, congratulations, Sir Jesse, Knight of the Desert. What is he? Our fourth knight? Our fourth member of the round table?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cool. So cool. So thank you very much for your continued support. And you, dear listeners out there, if you're not yet a producer of the show, you can start working towards your own knighthood. Just head over to patreon.com/CCNT, where you can sign up to support on a monthly basis. Or, a lot of people don't like Patreon. That's okay. You can head to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. There you can sign up on PayPal for recurring donations or make one-time donation as well if commitment is not your thing, as well as cryptocurrency and all sorts of fun ways to support the show and become a producer, because this is the real world, folks. We're not operating on some imaginary podcast land where, people are donating, it's just wrong. I think the donating, we've said it for a long time, but I think the value for value model, where if people support the show financially, they are officially a producer of the show. So you can be that too. You get a shout out on the show, and work your way towards knighthood. Now, another great way to support the show is leaving ratings and reviews on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, wherever you listen to the podcast. Not live, but after the live feed, everybody, the show comes out. The audio is a much better version, and we recommend everybody subscribe to Canary Cry Radio on your favorite podcast player, because if for some reason the live show doesn't work, you can always catch the podcast version. It's where we started, and it's what we love to do. So we'll keep doing that. But, Gons, we actually had some ratings and reviews come in. So you want to hear some of them?
Very good. I do.
All right. This one is from Rufus the Pig. And left this on Apple Podcasts. And Rufus says, so appreciate these guys. I believe it was a 5-star rating. Intelligent, funny, and always upbeat. Unlike a lot of apocalyptic news and podcasts, I feel like I genuinely like these guys as personalities. Oh, thanks. Oh. And be sure to check out Canary Cry News Talk Facebook group. Some smart, fun people over there, as well as the best memes. That's right. He's referring to the Canary Cry community on Facebook. So check it out. Join the group. We've got a few thousand people, listeners of the show, in that group. And you'll be asked a question to join the group. You just have to tell us that you listen to the show. There's a lot of people who want to join the group who have never listened to the show. And I don't reject them. I just say, go listen to the show. Listen to it, then you can join, because that's what it's for. Yes. So there you go. Thank you, Rufus the Pig. And there's one more from Hunter 41129. Says, very informative. I like these guys. Started out listening to Gons on Face Like the Sun. Shout out to the Face Like the Sun folks. And then watched Gons and Basil on Twitch. Woohoo! Once you start listening, it will get you thinking outside the cage. And that's the whole point, folks. If nothing else, we're just here to get you to think in a different way. So very fun. Thank you very much. And you too can leave a rating and a review if becoming a producer is not in the cards for you. And again, we thank all of our producers, including Sir Jesse, Knight of the Desert, for keeping the show going. We couldn't do it without you.
Yes. And other ways you can contribute to the show, you can provide artwork, which we have one that we will show on the screen here, and it'll be on canarycrynewstalk.com as well. This is the Canary Cry Saga.
Yes.
And
Godspeed has been creating these, and it is fantastic.
Yeah. I told the wife, I think we officially made it. We're cartoon characters, and now we're a whole series of comic books. So
yes, this one, the Canary Cry Saga, this one obviously a reference to the Riot Control Bees. Yes. Which in the Canary Cry Saga, apparently, Riot Control Bee Man. I don't know if he's on the good guy team or the bad guy team, but, he's here to cause havoc. And that's from Canary Cry News Talk episode 206, if you don't remember the Riot Control Bees.
Yes.
I beseech you, please behave.
Oh, there you go. Good job.
The beekeeper. So thank you very much, Godspeed, who sent that to us.
And the other thing, we always make a call out for people to make jingles for us. And we actually, during the Mother's Day weekend episode, we made a call out for someone to make a mom jingle, like an awesome mom jingle.
Oh yeah, we had a bunch of mom stories.
Yes, and we didn't get one for several weeks, but we did finally get one this week from Deezer's channel. I know he's in there in the Twitch chat somewhere. And here we go. We're going to play the mom jingle that we can play now anytime we have a good mom story.
Mother, there is no other like mother. So treat her right, come on.
There you go. So
I like it. I'm going to be singing that one in between shows here. Very good. Thank you so much. And you too can also help produce the show by making jingles. Pick out a topic or a segment or something that we talk about on the show for those who have access and ability to use some sound editing software. Make sure to keep it short. Don't use any, music that is owned by a big company because they'll take it down.
Try not to. There's some stuff that kind of slips in from time to time, but yeah, try not to get too crazy with that because, we don't need any lawsuits because
can't handle that.
A producer failed to abide by the law.
So there you go. Very good. Oh, we have such talented producers, Gons.
I know. I love it.
We're so lucky. I can't believe it.
We are definitely very happy, blessed. And is that it? Are we going to move into? Because I'm looking at the clock and we're running close, man.
Oh yes, we need to zoom through the last third part of the show here. Let's do it.
Speaking of the beast system, beast system.
All right, so this is Reuters.com. Fujitsu-backed supercomputer with ARM chip ranks as world's most powerful. It's my people, Basil. We're number one now.
Yeah.
A Japanese supercomputer built with technology from ARM Ltd, whose chip design power most of the world's smartphones, has taken the top spot among the world's most powerful systems, displacing one powered by International Business Machines Corp chips. The Fugaku supercomputer, a system jointly developed by Japanese research institute Riken and Fujitsu Ltd in Kobe, Japan, took the highest spot on the top 500 list, a twice-yearly listing of the world's most powerful computers, its backers said on Monday. The chip technology comes from ARM, which is headquartered in the United Kingdom but owned by Japan's SoftBank Group Corp. SoftBank owning microchips. The previous top-ranked system as of November 2019 was an Oak Ridge National Laboratory in the United States with chips designed by IBM. Chips from IBM and Intel Corp have dominated the top 10 rankings, with the lone exception of a system at the National Supercomputing Center in Wuxi, Japan, powered by Chinese-designed chips. Governments use supercomputers to simulate nuclear blasts to perform virtual weapons testing. They are also used for modeling climate systems and biotechnology research. The Fugaku supercomputer will be used in such research as part of Japan's Society 5.0 technology program. Quote, I very much hope that Fugaku will show itself to be highly effective in real-world applications and will help to realize Society 5.0, Naoki Shinjo, corporate executive officer of Fujitsu, said in a statement. The ARM-based system in Japan in November had taken the highest spot on Top 500's list for power-efficient supercomputers. ARM said the system also took the top spot in a list designed to closely resemble real-world computing tasks known as the High-Performance Conjugate Gradient Benchmark. A lot of technical terms there, but
fancy. Yeah.
There you go. Japan's, Fujitsu supercomputer with ARM chips, number one. And
Japan's
ushering in Society 5.0.
Yeah, what exactly is Society 5.0 in this context?
I was doing a little bit of research on that, and I was hoping that. Let me find it. Yeah. Even though we named the episode off of that. So, one definition is a human-based society that balances economic advancement with the resolution of social problems by a system that highly integrates cyberspace and physical space. Society 5.0 was proposed in the 5th Science and Technology Basic Plan as a future society that Japan should aspire to. So it's it's the very thing we've been talking about, pretty much from the beginning, definitely on the Face Like the Sun channel, of this merging of the virtual world and the physical world.
Uh-huh.
And it's an actual. Here, I'll pull up the. I'll leave this in the description as well. There's let me pull it into the view so people can see it. This is japan.go.jp. It's a government document. And come on, load. Realizing Society 5.0. It's got a little picture of a happy Japanese family there with IoT, Internet of Things, big data, AI, and robot, all sort of surrounding them. And it's got pictures of drones and virtual doctors and self-driving cars and all kinds of stuff. Do you want me to keep going here? I can read more about it.
See if there's anything interesting. Pick something out.
This is Society 5.0, a super smart society. Japan will take the lead to realize this ahead of the rest of the world.
Yeah, and we've tried this before. They tried it in Canada. There's the Saudi Arabian NEOM. NEOM, this super society. It's basically just a technocratic utopia, is what people all over the world are trying to accomplish. So it sounds like Japan's thrown their hat in the ring there, bud.
Yeah, well, the difference being that the Japanese, we do not fail. We will all commit suicide and lose honor if we fail. So this is, and actually, I think this was part of the big reveal that didn't happen at the Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo. I think they were going to show themselves, Japan that is, that they are the forefront of Society 5.0, this whole new technocratic situation. And I think a lot of the opening ceremonies and the things they had planned with robots everywhere, translating languages for everybody and, helping people walk around and find themselves and where to go, all that kind of stuff. I think this was it was supposed to be the big, moment for Japan to declare themselves the leaders in this mission here to become, the New World Order, basically.
Yeah, it's very New World Order, Agenda 2030 type stuff. So they still got 10 years. We'll see what they can pull out.
They certainly accelerated everything with the Ronas and everything going on.
Yeah. Just to keep things moving so we can get you out on time, let's talk about CERN.
CERN. Oh, yes, CERN. I forgot about that.
Speaking of the beast system.
Oops. Hold on. Here, we're going to try that again.
Beast system.
There we go. This is from extremetech.com. CERN plans new particle collider 30 times more powerful than the LHC. The Large Hadron Collider is the most advanced and complex machine ever built by humanity. Wow, I've never heard it explained that way. And it's allowed us to study the inner workings of the universe in unprecedented ways. However, there's only so much you can do with a 27-kilometer particle collider. So CERN has approved plans to build a much larger collider called the Future Circular Collider with a 100-kilometer circumference. So there you go. We're making one 4 times bigger. And for those who just need a short little update, we've talked a whole bunch about the Large Hadron Collider on Canary Cry Radio and Canary Cry News Talk. Long story short, it's opening portals to other dimensions and setting demons free to roam the world. Or something like that. The article continues, physicists have made many predictions about the nature of the universe and the existence of exotic particles. The best way we know to expose these particles to test theories is to smash protons together at high speeds and see what comes out. That's how the Large Hadron Collider confirmed the existence of the Higgs boson in 2012. Generally, higher power collider means more particle detections. The LHC produced the Higgs result with 125 to 126 GeV of energy, but the instrument can run at 13 TeV, in order of magnitude more. An ongoing upgrade will push the LHC even further, but the FCC will dwarf the instrument with a predicted collision energy of 100 TeV. When the FCC is up and running, remember that is the Future Circular Collider.
Right, not the Federal what is it? The Federal something commission?
Yeah, something or other. When the FCC is up and running, it will be able to spit out Higgs bosons on demand, allowing scientists to map the way these particles interact with other matter. The first iteration of the SCC will rely on electron-positron collisions, which is ideal for producing Higgs particles. After that, the team will upgrade the instrument to handle proton-proton collisions, reaching its full 100 TeV potential. Planning for the LHC began in the early 1990s, and principal construction kicked off in 1998. However, CERN had the advantage of upgrading an existing facility to make LHC a reality. The 27-kilometer tunnel that houses the LHC beam path was originally built in the 1980s for the Large Electron-Positron Collider. The FCC will require an entirely new construction project to bore out a 100-kilometer underground ring that won't start until 2038 at the earliest. Wow, that is far away.
Yep.
So we're probably looking at the mid-21st century before the FCC is doing science. The project could eventually cost upward of $23 billion, which is more than CERN can gather from its European partners. The organization might need to partner with the US, China, or Japan. However, it could finally shed light on some of the most vexing conundrums in physics, such as the higher prevalence of matter compared with antimatter in the composition of dark matter. So yeah, this is 4 times bigger than the LHC. You know, it kind of occurred to me they need to dig a big old tunnel, and I think at least by 2038, Elon Musk's Boring Company might be just the right candidate for digging that tunnel, Guns.
Yeah,
might have one of the 4 horsemen of the Technocalypse being instrumental.
There you go. Yeah. A couple things. One, I made a short video on this yesterday on the Face Like the Sun channel. And one of the things I pointed out was that in the 80s, they tried to make a collider close to the size. This is, it's going to be 62 miles. I think they were trying to make a collider the size of 57 miles circumference, in Texas in the 80s. It fell through. It didn't happen, allegedly. And it was called the Desertron.
Yes.
So they've done this in the past. And also, the other thing I noted was that in 2038, that's actually 7 years prior to the 2045 date of the the people trying to achieve immortality by virtually uploading their consciousness into an avatar or whatever, Dmitry Itskov, the futurist mogul, was saying. And so, interesting time period there. That's going to be some strange days ahead, should the Lord allow such times to exist. And also the 23 billion. What's 23 billion? I'm surprised they can't get the EU to just print it.
Yeah, I mean, Gates could just pay for that out of his back pocket there.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the LHC, the actual LHC scientists were afraid of opening up black holes with the Large Hadron Collider, and now we're going to make one 4 times bigger. So I wonder if anybody is even more worried about the black hole problem.
Well, that, and plus the one article that I always quoted was one where a physicist said that if the collider works in a particular way, we should be able to peer into all other dimensions. His words, not conspiracy theorist words, the physicists themselves. Yeah, we're saying we can peer into other dimensions. So there you go.
A bunch of forward-thinking interdimensional scientists over there.
They're already interdimensional.
Yeah. I need to. I haven't done enough scrolling, but there's many people in the chat typing in Basiltron. I think that would be a great name. I want them to name it after me. That way, I can
your personal collider.
Ah, man, I really should make a trip over there and do some get the tour, do some boots on the ground at the LHC.
I don't know, man. You're gonna have to vax to get there now.
Ah, don't say that. I got my my antibody card.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's keep going so we can get you out of here on time.
Are you ready to become cyborg?
This is 10.medium.com. And I'll keep this one short here. The Segway's inventor has a new project, manufacturing human organs. This past January,
wow, what an enterprising young man.
What a interesting segue. Nah? No? Okay.
Hey.
This past January, the umpteenth version of the Segway personal transporter whisked attendees around in its white egg-shaped seat at CES, the huge annual consumer electronics show in Las Vegas. Called the Segway S-Pod, it drew comparisons to the hover chairs in WALL-E that shuttled around people so out of shape and blob-like they'd forgotten how to stand. This is not how Dean Kamen, who invented the Segway almost 20 years ago, imagined his legacy. Kamen was inspired to create a device like the Segway in the early 90s, yada, yada, yada. He made the Segway. Fantastic person who invented it. His company DECA, for Dean Kamen, research development in Manchester, New Hampshire, employs nearly 800 engineers. I'm trying to get to the spot here where it talks about but none of these many. It looks like we dropped from the stream. I'm looking at our stream drop here. They don't like us talking about it. Okay, here we go. This is the important stuff. So hopefully we're back on so people can hear this part here. So he invented a bunch of stuff, but none of these many inventions, including the Segway, has an impact that comes close to what could be accomplished by the most ambitious project of Kamen's career, building human organ factories. In December 2016, at the age of 65, he and his collaborators won an $80 million Department of Defense contract to manufacture replacement tissue and organs on demand. Wounded soldiers need body parts, the DoD explained at the time, and so do Americans. And organ transplant waiting lists 111,000 people at last count. And it goes into just more of the details. This is a pretty long article here, but it goes into the whole 3D printing of the body parts, and it's interesting how we have this body organ issue in China. That it's kind of a hush-hush situation. But here we have the DoD.
The Uyghur issue.
Yes, and here we have the DoD stepping in, kind of like, hey, why don't we solve that problem and other problems in general by just figuring out how to print organs. And this is the guy who invented the Segway. Very ambitious.
Wow.
$80 million from the DoD to make this a reality.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, interesting. I didn't know the guy who created the failed two-wheeled personal transportation device would then get into printing organs. But like I said, a enterprising young man.
Yes, this is something to mention here. Bab, their bioassembly bot, 3D prints human cells and has a 6-axis robot arm that makes structures, holds tools, and does assembly. With Bab, engineers at Advanced Solutions have used cells from belly fat to create blood vessels, and they're currently working on vascularizing a liver with another Army member. It's a ARMI. Quote, in a lot of cases, we have moved beyond scaffolds, says engineer and CEO Michael Galway. Bab is so flexible. Interesting that they reference the machine as a she, really allows us to do design tissue structures in a way that we can add the cells so that it can be 100% living. There you go.
Wow. Interesting.
The Bab.
Okay. There we go.
The future
Watch out
of Flippy.
for Bab. And Army. Yeah, Flippy's got a job over there. All right. Let's do another quick little story on some artificial brains.
On your brain?
Are you ready to become cyborg?
SingularityHub.com. Scientists use dopamine to seamlessly merge artificial and biological neurons. We've been following the state of what robot brains might look like, and now they're getting dopamine involved. Okay. In just a half a decade, neuromorphic devices or brain-inspired computing already seem quaint. The current darling? Artificial biological hybrid computing, uniting both man-made computer chips and biological neurons seamlessly. into semi-living circuits. It sounds crazy, but a new study in Nature Materials shows that it's possible to get an artificial neuron to communicate directly with a biological one using not just electricity, but dopamine, a chemical the brain naturally uses to change how neural circuits behave, most known for signaling reward. Because these chemicals, known as neurotransmitters, are how biological neurons functionally link up to the brain, the study is a dramatic demonstration that it's possible to connect artificial components with biological brain cells into a functional circuit. The team isn't the first to pursue hybrid neural circuits. Previously, a different team hooked up two silicon-based artificial neurons with a biological one into a circuit using electrical protocols alone. We reported on that a few episodes ago. Although a powerful demonstration of hybrid computing, the study relied on only one half of the brain's computational ability, electrical computing. The new study now tackles the other half, chemical computing. It adds a layer of compatibility that lays the groundwork not just for brain-inspired computers, but also for brain-machine interfaces, and perhaps a sort of cyborg future. After all, if your brain can't tell the difference between an artificial neuron and your own, could you? And even if you did, would you care? Of course, that scenario is far in the future, if ever. For now, the team led by Dr. Alberto Saleo, professor of materials science and engineering at Stanford University, collectively breathed a sigh of relief that the hybrid circuit worked. Quote, "It's a demonstration that this communication melding chemistry and electricity is possible," said Saleo. "You could say it's a first step toward a brain-machine interface, but it's a tiny, very first step." There you go. That's actually pretty wild, Guns. Dopamine being a biological chemical. I'm not sure if it's exactly a hormone, but it's specific to living brains, and now they can actually use it in mechanical circuitry, which is pretty wild. I mean, that is some next level Matrix style brain computer interfacing.
Yeah, and also it's the thing that has been abused by the social media. It's the dopamine effects on us, wanting to click and getting thumbs up and hearts and likes, and all that is affecting your dopamine response in your brain. And so, obviously, it's the first step towards making a brain machine interface.
This is quite the jump in technology.
Yeah, because people
it
have
didn't
always
even
said
seem possible.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's that the real big point that I had highlighted was the chemical computing component, because that's been the missing piece of this whole thing. The electrical stuff, sure, the bioelectrical stuff, sure, but the chemicals is what really is a little bit harder to nail down, I think. But this is the first steps towards that. There you go.
Very impressive.
More progress.
All right.
What do I wanted to say here? I wanted to. Oh man, what happened to? I had a thing. I had an ISO that was supposed to summarize this whole thing, but I lost it. So I'll just play this instead.
Bummer. Shameful generation!
I was looking for the stop this progress before it's too late, but I can't find it.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, but we have this last story here.
He's a Satanist.
ArmyTimes.com. U.S. soldier plotted with satanic neo-Nazis to ambush his own unit overseas.
Oh, no.
Feds say. Oh, my gosh. This is kind of a longer article, too. I don't know if I can read the whole thing here.
Yeah, just give it a start.
A U.S. soldier assigned to an installation in Europe has been charged with trying to plan a deadly ambush on members of his own unit during an upcoming deployment with the help of an occult-based neo-Nazi group known as the Order of the Nine Angels. Always the nine. No. According to an indictment unsealed Monday.
That sounds like a Book of Enoch reference or something.
Well, the number 9 being the Ennead, the 9 gods of Egypt, and if you know about the channeling that took place with Uri Geller and he was an Israeli occultist.
Yeah.
And also Roddenberry. What's his name? The guy who Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry was there, and a bunch of celebrities were with them when they channeled the Nine, and that's where Star Trek Deep Space Nine. That's where all that stuff comes from. Private Ethan P. Melzer, 22, confessed to plotting what he intended to be a mass casualty attack during an interview with U.S. agents on May 30th. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Melzer was arrested on June 10th by the FBI during the interview. Melzer called himself a traitor against the United States and admitted that he intended to cause as many deaths among his fellow service members as possible, according to the indictment. Yeah, Melzer's enlisted as an infantryman through the Army's delayed entry program in December 2018 and started his active duty during service in June 2019, said Army spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Emmanuel Ortiz Cruz. And we'll leave links to the story so you guys can dig through this. It says at the last paragraph here, the Order of the Nine Angels has been linked to 4 cases of teenagers who were jailed in the United Kingdom for terror-related offenses over the past year, according to the British Broadcasting Corporation, or the BBC. It appears to primarily exist online. In the indictment against Melzer, U.S. officials stated that members and associates of the group have participated in acts of violence that include murders. So if they're the 9 gods of Egypt associated with this, then telling people to kill.
It will kill.
Yikes.
Kill. Well, that's not cool. Yeah. Well, when more info comes out about that, we'll certainly bring it to the show. But there we go. I think you got to get out of here, Gon. So I think it's time to start landing this plane. What do you say?
Yes. Time to end the show.
There we go.
Gotta get out.
Well, thank you everybody so much for listening to today's episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Here's the thing. We will be back on Friday, sometime between noon and 5 p.m. PST. We'll be back with same show, news stories. You got to keep up with everything going on. So we appreciate everybody coming on. Thank you to our new producers, and especially thank you to Sir Jesse, Knight of the Desert. And you too can make your way towards knighthood to the Canary Cry Roundtable of Knights and Dames. To do that, you can head over to patreon.com/CCNT, sign up on the Patreon, or if Patreon's not your thing or you want to give a one-time donation, you can head to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. Now remember to stick around to the very end of the show because we've got our Canary Cry Radio mixtape coming up at the end. And remember, there's other ways to support the show as well. If you are an artist, you can create some show-themed art and email that to canarycryradio@gmail.com. We'll show it on the show here. Also, if you are someone who can manipulate sound and create jingles or songs, we've got some very talented musicians who listen to the show. Create one of those, write a song that has something to do with the show and the topics that we cover here. And you can send that also to canarycryradio@gmail.com. We apologize. We do have to kind of make our way through the emails. So I know people have sent some stuff that hasn't made it on the show quite yet, but just give us your patience. We appreciate that very much. And remember, you can leave ratings and reviews on the podcast version of the show. That helps out the show a lot. Tells the iTunes robots to share the show with other people. But remember, one of the best ways, if not the best way, to help spread the show and support what we're doing here is to send an episode to a friend. Y'all got people in your lives who are waking up. Things aren't adding up, and they need a little bit of help with that. And sending them an episode of the show is a great way to help them and help the show and strengthen your friendship or your family relationship, whatever that looks like to you. So just pick somebody and send an episode and help them out. And if you're here because somebody sent you an episode, welcome. We're happy you're here. But if you need any help, here's some instructions. You walk right up to him, you grab him by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Thanks again, everybody. And remember us this Friday. The producerships, they've slowed down a little bit over the past week or so. So it's a great time to help support the show, become a producer, and let everybody know that you are now a podcast producer. It's a cool thing to do. Head over to patreon.com/CCNT. And remember, we'll be back on Friday sometime between noon and 5 p.m. PST. So please remember to log in. Make sure to turn on notifications so you will know when we go live. The best way to get the notification is to subscribe to all sorts of different outlets, YouTube and Twitch. If you have not done that yet, you can head to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. And I think that's about it. Any last words, Gonz?
Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it.
There you go. Straight from the Gonzo's mouth. All right. Make sure to tune in next time to Canary Cry News Talk. But until then, remember, all together now, think outside the cage.
We will launch a new age.
Look it up.
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
You are entering a dimension of sound. You carefully come in through the threshold with wonder, yet skepticism. You see the faint shape of an outline of a robot arm petting a cat. You faintly hear the haunting sounds of a man playing a tambourine. The sound augments into two men playing with a soundboard. You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Stay a while and listen. And now, where Nephilim news meets biblical views, you'll find broken memes and shattered dreams. Give it up for Basil and Gonz.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
People, I'll keep you safe and warm. In my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now. In my people's zoo. You, in my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on.
For the robots.
It will kill. Make you
you ready to become cyborg?